Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 27th. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. General Counsel.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Richard Tom, Assistant General Counsel of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. With me in the DWP boardroom are Commission President McLean Hill and Commissioner Reyes, General Manager and Chief Engineer Marty Adams, the Board Secretary, and very limited essential staff only. As permitted under Governor Newsom's Executive Order of March 17th, the other members of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, Commissioners Barad, Neiman Brady, and Lehrer, are teleconferencing from remote locations. Also, consistent with the Governor's order, all public comment will be taken telephonically. We may announce a recess if we have technical difficulties or lose a quorum due to technical difficulties. As indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 213-306-3065 and use meeting ID number 146-410-9601 and then press pound. I will repeat that number, 213-306-3065, and the meeting ID number is 146-410-9601, and then press pound. When it is your turn to speak, the Board Secretary will call on you by your partial phone number. To members of the public calling in, when it is your turn to speak, please state whether you are speaking on general public comment or on a specific agenda item or items that you are wishing to comment on. You have 2 minutes per item to speak, up to 5 minutes total. The Board Secretary will inform you when your time is up. Finally, and very importantly, for members of the public calling in to speak, if you are also listening to the board meeting on your computer or on a speakerphone, please turn down your volume on those devices before you start speaking live to the commissioners. Otherwise, we will experience echoes and feedback. With that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Secretary.
Commissioners, I will be taking roll call. Please say present. Commissioner Barard. Commissioner Barard.
Present.
President McLean Hill.
Present.
Commissioner Neiman Brady.
Present.
Commissioner Lahr.
Lehrer. Mia. Lehrer. I'm here.
Thank you.
You're
Noted.
welcome.
Commissioner Vice President Reyes.
Present.
5 members present and a quorum. Opening of the board meeting by President McLean Hill.
Thank you, Susie. I'd like to open this meeting by welcoming our new commissioner, Mia Lehrer, to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. The commissioner is the founder and president of Studio MLA, an LA urban design and landscape architecture firm. Her firm specializes in the design and implementation of public and private sector projects, such as urban waterway programs, local and regional parks, and mixed-use developments. Commissioner Lehrer is also known as a longtime champion for the Los Angeles River, notably through her work as a member of the team that delivered the city's River Revitalization Master Plan and the 2020 Upper LA River and Tributaries Revitalization Plan. A native of El Salvador, Lehrer earned her BA from Tufts University and a Master's of Landscape Architecture degree from Harvard's Graduate School of Design. She was named a Fellow of the American Society of Landscape Architects in 2010. And I just have to say, on a personal note, as a very proud urban resident, I have been a longtime fan. She is a major rock star for all of us who believe in, appreciate, and recognize the importance of urban landscape design. This is, today, a historic first for the Commission, as this new commissioner is joining us in the first ever all-female LADWP Board of Commissioners. It's taken 118 years for us to see this day, and I can't tell you how incredibly excited I am to be part of this board. I also want to note that under the leadership of this mayor, Eric Garcetti, who is in fact responsible for the appointment of each and every one of us, we will continue to make history during our tenure on this board as we continue to advance LA's Green New Deal. With that, I will deviate shortly from, or briefly from, the agenda to open the floor for any comments that our new commissioner would like to make. Commissioner Lear.
I'm honored to be a member of this all-woman commission with such accomplished women, and really appreciate the responsibility that has been placed on me and on us, and honored to have been named by Mayor Garcetti, and we, to uphold the Green New Deal and to continue with the agenda that DWP has had for many decades, and making a difference not only in our region but across the country, leading by example. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we will move to general public comment.
Good morning, callers. As I unmute you, please state your full name and item number you would like to speak on. Tiffany?
Hi, good morning. Tiffany Wong with Scope and Power LA. I'm speaking on general public comments and item number 30 on the agenda.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. We'd like to applaud the work of City Council President Mary Martinez and Board President Cynthia McLean-Hill in this great step towards getting rid of utility debt burden for low-income Angelenos. And we encourage, we also approve DWP in administering this $50 million utility grant program. We'd like to work with DWP to make sure this program is targeted, accessible, and equitable. And our recommendations are as follows. DWP will partner with community-based organizations and offer support for ratepayers. Many of the Power CDOs work with eligible low-income and less folks. So working with us will allow DWP to increase the universe of eligible customers for this water system. We also recommend creating an advisory committee of community stakeholders, ratepayers, and staff, DWP staff, to allow our input on designing this program. And in the spirit of the Equity Metrics Data Initiative, DWP staff should report to the board in 1 month on the enrollment of Black and brown low-income families. And if the data shows limited enrollment, staff should work with community advocates from the advisory committee to produce concrete recommendations for improvement. And we know this money is a great step forward, but won't impact the 400,000 plus low-income folks in the city. So we're committed to working with the Council President's Office and board to bring more systemic reforms that will erase Angelino's debt and stabilize full payments for folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to caller number 2. Cameron, please state your full name and the items you would like to speak on.
Hello, this is Cameron Hurd, and I would like to speak on item 30.
Please go ahead.
All right, I appreciate a lot of what the last speaker had to say. I'm speaking from Repower Los Angeles and applauding the work of President of the City Council, Mary Martinez, and the Board President, Cynthia McLean-Hill, as well as everybody who helped pass that historic $50 million in CARES funding, and just agreeing that it's very much a good first step toward getting rid of the utility debt burden that's really ravaging different communities, low-income communities, Black and brown communities. Of course, it's extremely complex, so we understand that it took a lot of work to work on administering that large amount of funding. So we would love to work with LADWP in the coming months to make sure that this opportunity is maximized and simplified for customers. I believe the community-based organizations can play a really strong role in making that happen. So, of course, I recommend that community-based organizations partner with LADWP and making sure that they work with eligible low-income discount programs and Lifeline people to make sure that DWP increases the universe of eligible customers, as well as encouraging LADWP to create an advisory committee of community stakeholders, ratepayers, LADWP staff, to make sure that our input is heard on designing an equitable and accessible grant program. LADWP staff, must report to the Board of Commissioners in 1 month. I think that would be a very good measure. And focusing on that data is enrollment of Black and brown low-income communities, and of course being transparent and responsible about what we find from that data. So to recap, that's a very good first step with the utility grant program. We need to make sure that, the many hundreds of thousands of low-income people in Los Angeles receive the support that they need. And, unfortunately, the CARES funds won't be enough to impact the 400,000 plus low-income folks in the city of LA, but we're committed to bring more systemic reform that Angelenos will greatly benefit from, making sure that their debt is stabilized for low-income customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the next caller, Augustine, please state your full name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, good morning. My name is Agustin Cabrera. I'm the Repower LA Director with the LA Alliance for a New Economy. I just want to first start off by congratulating Commissioner Lair for her appointment. We as advocates are really, really excited to be working with an all-woman-led commission and board. So we look forward to working with you. And today, I just want to say that we are really excited for not only for the City Council, but the Board of Commissioners to pass this very historic funding for the utility grant program. And as my colleagues have said earlier, we know that this is going to be, a huge undertaking, and we, as Repower LA and other advocates, want to work with DWP staff and the board to really maximize the opportunity and simplify it for the customers that really need it the most. And you heard our recommendations as a coalition, and want to make sure that we really are there side by side to make sure that we get as many people enrolled for this very important money that's on the table right now for low-income folks. I also want to applaud the work of Commissioner Reyes in making sure that we streamline and improve equity metrics, and so we support her motion in making sure that staff works with advocates like ourselves to make sure that we are fulfilling the promise of equity metrics. And I'm also really eager and excited to start working on improving the low-income discount program. So as my colleagues have recommended, we want to work with you on the utility grant program, and we look forward to working with you on equity metrics and the low-income discount program. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to caller with the prefix 323 and the last 2 digits of the phone number 69. Please state your full name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hello.
Yes, please state your full name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Simone Arias, and I'd like to speak on general public comment, item 30.
Please go ahead.
you. Hello. My name is Renee. I work with Scope. I encourage you all to approve the LAWP initiating the utility grant program. We applaud the work that's been done to pass this historic funding of $3 million. It's a great first step in addressing the debt burden of low-income Black and Brown communities in Los Angeles. I recommend that community-based organizations partner with LADWP to administrate the program so that communities that need this assistance can receive it. We know this is just one first step in addressing these issues of utility debt. We hope it's something that we can do together in the community to ensure structural change for the future, and that the 400,000 plus low-income people in LA aren't as severely impacted during any future crises that occurs or economic downturn. So we really are looking forward to working together and ensuring that we provide some type of systemic refund for Angelenos. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the next caller with the prefix of 347 and the last 2 digits 20. Please state your full name and the items you wish to speak on.
Michelle Hassan with the Natural Resources Defense Council, and I wish to speak on agenda item 30.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hassan. I'm with NRDC and a member of the Repower Coalition. Just want to reiterate all the support offered by coalition members of Repower and colleagues here on the phone. I'll make this brief so I can also grant my time to other coalition partners that might want to speak more, but I do want to highlight the complexity and undertaking that DWP, the board, the city, and our decision makers have all taken, and want to really commend everybody for showing the rest of the country how a municipal utility as large as DWP can truly find ways to support all of its customers in times of need like now. I also want to acknowledge that resources for municipal utilities are limited, and the effort that we're seeing right now is quite commendable. So definitely want to highlight that, and also reiterate the support and collaboration that community partners, nonprofit partners are all offering at the table. We understand that this is a large effort and a large undertaking, and we understand that it is not an undertaking that can be taken alone, especially in a context like Los Angeles. So really also appreciate the openness and communication with staff and the board relating to these issues, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to caller with the area code 760, last 2 digits 58. Please state your full name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Jeff McQuilkin, and wanted to comment on item 8C. Is it possible to do that after the presentation, or should I do it now?
Please do that now. We're taking all speaker calls right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm Jeff McQuilkin. I'm the Executive Director of the Mono Lake Committee. We're involved closely in the item being discussed in 8C, the Mono Basin Stream Restoration Program. Appreciate the opportunity to comment today on a historic day for the Commission. The committee and our 16,000 members have been involved in protecting Mono Lake and its tributary streams for over 40 years. Now, the stream restoration matters that we discussed are important for Los Angeles and California, as well as Mono Lake and Eastern Sierra. The 2013 Mono Basin Stream Restoration Agreement is indeed a landmark. It was carefully and precisely crafted in response to the mandates of the State Water Resources Control Board and the guidance of their stream scientists. We've seen significant progress made in restoring roughly running Parker and Walker Creeks from the damage done by decades of excessive LADWP water diversions in the middle of the last century. But the streams remain far from the pre-diversion condition and far from achieving the goals mandated by the State Water Board. That's the purpose of the spillway modification project that we discussed. to compensate for Grand Dam's lack of a routine release outlet structure, to deliver springtime high flows that positively benefit stream systems, and to advance the restoration program toward the State Water Board's goals. Just like to add that time is of the essence for healing that damage. The State Water Board scientists set forth the plan here a decade ago. The spillway modification secret document was first circulated in 2016 and now is being re-released, and the streams are waiting. We're proud to work in partnership with Los Angeles over the decades. We've achieved many important collaborative successes to meet the mandates of the State Water Board for stream restoration, and separately from critical Mono Lake restoration that require having all the stakeholders positively engaged to reach success. And we look forward to working with the Commission and the City and the LADWP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving to caller area code 909, last 2 digits 99. Please state your full name and the item you wish to speak on.
Yes, my name is Bob Gardner. I am a Mono County supervisor up in the Mono Basin area. I'm going to comment on item 8C, just the same as Jeff McQuilkin just commented on. I appreciate the focus of the Commission on the Mono Basin restoration effort. This is an effort of great concern in my district, which includes June Lake and the entire Mono Basin. This is interesting, and I appreciated the data that was provided. I would note that in the 16 pages of the presentation the Commission will receive, there's only 2 or 3 in the end that talk about where this project is headed. And as noted by Jeff McQuilkin, the future plans with the Grant Lake Reservoir and other work are very important to us up here, and we'd like to have more information as to when actually that project will begin to really get into more full activity. Actually, a timetable is what we're looking for, and then we would appreciate it if the department would provide updates to our county and the community as progress on this important project occurs. It's, of course, been 7 years since the settlement in 2013, and we really are anxious to get this work done and receive the benefits in terms of the restoration and the recreation, other benefits that would occur. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Commission and wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more caller, area code 213, last 2 digits 27. Please state your full name and the item you wish to speak on. Caller with the area code 213, last 2 digits of your phone number 27. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on. That concludes public and general comments. It's closed.
Thank you. We'll now move to the report briefing by the General Manager.
Visit our website at www.weather.
All right.
No, free advertisement there.
Mr.
I don't think it was for us, though. Thank you very much. First, I, too, would like to welcome our news commissioner, Commissioner Mia Lehrer. You may not know, but she actually was the lead on the Silver Lake Master Plan that was developed. I want to say it was finished in the 90s, but I don't. I'm getting old. Maybe it was early 2000s. It was a while ago, but she worked very closely with us and did a fantastic job and has been involved with every aspect, in particular following up on that reservoir and with the community and other efforts that have gone on ever since then. And Commissioner Lehrer, I can tell you that staff is very excited to have you here. A number of us, know you from your work with us, your work around the city, and engaging on projects that we've been involved in. So, we really welcome you to the board and are very excited to work side by side with you and get your guidance from the inside here. So it's great to have you on board, and we welcome you and looking forward to great things ahead. I want to highlight just two things particularly. Last Wednesday, the 21st, we co-hosted a virtual community meeting with Pacoima Beautiful to provide updates on the Valley Generating Station and the methane leak that occurred there. It was live streamed and also on Facebook Live. We had about 80 attendees in total, and it was also translated into Spanish language real time. We had a facilitator who joined us from Kearns and West and did a great job in handling the questions. We had quite a few questions during the Q&A session. So I was joined by our board president, Cynthia McLean-Hill, who spoke at the event that evening, as well as Congressman Tony Cardenas, Council President Nuri Martinez, and Councilmember Monica Rodriguez were also present and spoke as well. And Andy Kindle and Nancy Sutley, thank you for assisting with the questions that we had. Overall, it was a good event. It's the beginning of a regular outreach program to the community that surrounds Valley Generating Station. We expect at this point probably do quarterly briefings with the community, let them know the status of all things going on at the facility, not just about methane, but just operations, about plans to remove the old smokestacks that have been there but are out of service since the plant was repowered a couple decades ago. And so that's hopefully the beginning of a new and better relationship and more clear and transparent communications coming from the department. At the same time, we are continuing to work on our notification plan and our monitoring plan for around the perimeter of the site to both measure air quality to make sure that nothing that could affect the adjoining neighborhood is emitting from the plant, and also to make that data available in real time to the community. So we are in the process of putting that system in place, and also the notification system to let everyone know. Also like to let everyone know that the board, well, you may recall on the 22nd of September, the board approved the Red Cloud wind farm project in New Mexico. Last Wednesday, the city council approved that agreement. When we do a power purchase agreement like that, where we have a power plant, they all require council approval. So that was fast-tracked through council, and it was fast-tracked so that we could get full advantage of the federal tax credit. And what that means is that it'll save about $50 million for our customers. And that helps deliver that wind power at about 4.1 cents per kilowatt hour over the 20 years. So that wind farm will be up and running by the end of next year. It'll add an additional about 6% to our renewable portfolio, which is currently running at about 34%. So I'd like to remind everyone in Los Angeles that every time you use electricity, a third of it already is renewable, and we're moving that number up as quickly as we can, and we'll be at the 55% by 2025, not that many years in the future. And so that project, the Red Cloud project, is the equivalent of taking about 100,000 cars off the road. So we're very happy to see that move forward, and looking forward to the results that it provides for the city. And unless there's any questions, that's the end of my report.
Any questions from any commissioners?
I have one.
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that there are plans to transition more of our employees back to the JFB and to their offices with the COVID cases rising. Has that plan changed? How are you approaching that?
So that's a great question. We are looking at, so Chris, where we are currently. So currently, we're at 100% staffing in the field. We have been for many months. There are field offices where folks are not in a high-rise situation, where they're staffed sometimes up to 100% because there's not many people in the office, maybe field engineering or folks that are supporting the field crews, and they're not in an environment like an office building. Currently in this building, all managers and second-level supervisors report full-time, and all other employees are reporting a minimum of 2 days a week. And so they're in staggered shifts so that we don't have too many people here at once. We are probably somewhere in the 40%-ish, maybe I don't think we're even close to 50% in terms of occupancy, and we have everyone spread out. And our plans have been very effective at making sure that we don't have any incidents of transmission amongst employees. We've been, our overall numbers for people who have gotten sick as employees are pretty low. And all the transmissions have happened outside of the department. So our protocols here have been very, very successful. So we are discussing what it would look like to bring people back more often. If we we're looking probably more at the supervisory ranks at this point, but we have not made any firm decisions. Also, at the same time, we're looking very closely at what's going on around us in terms of if there's an uptick in the virus. So we have not seen an uptick amongst our own folks, fortunately, and so if we make any moves, we'll be very careful, very deliberate, and making sure that we can keep our good safety record and our safety protocols. One of the things that I am trying to do is really the purpose of not having people in office settings, which is typically this building and Figueroa Plaza across the street, and then maybe some at 3rd Street, is to make sure that the people who have to be in the office can do so safely. And so I think the office settings are pretty good themselves, especially with all the plexiglass we've installed. It's the common areas, elevators, hallways, and things like that we need to make sure don't become impacted. And so, we're looking at this very carefully. At the same time, as is evidenced by the things you've seen on the board, we have a lot of projects moving, and a lot of things need to move forward. So it's a careful balance between making sure that everyone is able to be productive at home, but also there's certain things that really need to be in the office to do, and striking that balance between making sure we can get all of our work done at the same time, keeping everyone safe and protecting them. But if and when we make changes, it'll be very deliberate and very, very carefully done and carefully measured as well. So.
Yeah, I would simply say, I think reflecting what I suspect is Commissioner Reyes' concern is that we have to be mindful of the fact that our employees live in the real world and they live outside the building.
Yeah.
And so as we are entering a season where we are beginning to see a rise in cases, that we want to go very slow. I think the worst possible scenario would be bringing everybody back only to have to, a couple of weeks later, vacate the building again. So, we want to the predictions or the suspicions about what can happen this winter. It seems to me that the worst case scenario continues to be, realized largely because public policy is not mirroring what we know to be best practices. LA's done better than some places, but we can't build a wall around our city or our state, and so we will be impacted by behaviors well beyond our city limits. So I would be very careful and very slow about that. I also wanted to make one observation about the meeting out in Pacoima around, or the meeting related to VGS, and that is that my clear takeaway is that we have a community that is increasingly focused on our plans for moving toward 100% renewables, and in particular our plans around what happens with the coastal plants, and a community that's insisting that whatever steps that this department takes considers the impacts on their community as well, and that we not be singularly focused on moving forward strategies in a way that do not fully look at the impact across the entire grid. So that was a very, very key takeaway, that environmental justice issues must be factored into everything that this department does on its way toward a cleaner and gas and less reliance on gas. So are there any other questions? If none, Marty, are we ready to move to item 8A? Sharon. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I skipped. I'm so anxious to get to management reports. I'm sorry. She's like, excuse me, my turn? Sorry about that. Item 4, we have no motions from commissioners to introduce. Comments from ratepayer advocate. Fred, do you have anything at this juncture?
We will have some short comments on a couple of the items in items 8 and some possible comments on items 30 and 31,
Okay.
if they're brought forward for discussion.
And yes, they will be, so thank you for that. Anything from Neighborhood Council?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's board agenda.
Okay, thank you. In terms of item 7, before taking up a consent calendar, we'd like to remove items, let's see, 24, 25, 27, 28, 30, and 31 will be pulled for discussion, and we will be deferring at the request of the division and general manager, item 12. Other than that, is there and with respect to item 10, no, so let me do it this way. Other than that, can we have a motion to approve items 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 29. Oh, and 26.
I move approval of those items.
I second. Would you please call the roll, Susie?
Yes. Commissioner McLean Hill,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
Berard,
Aye.
Lair,
Aye.
Neiman Brady,
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. And then I'd also like to, at this time, just take up item 10, which is the minutes. And with respect to approval of the minutes, the only commissioners that may vote would be myself, Commissioner Reyes, and Commissioner Neiman Brady. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Susie, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Neiman Brady,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
McLean Hill,
Aye.
3 ayes.
Okay, great. So now, Sharon, would you please come forward for a presentation on item 8A? And I just want to say that, as you may recall, I was underwhelmed by the last presentation, but am so excited to see this one that I tried to jump you forward in the agenda. So I'm very happy to see you this morning, and Nancy, I see you there as well. So, ladies.
Yeah, just wanted, before Sharon goes into the presentation, just to explain a little bit about what we're information we're trying to provide. And we know we have 2 separate presentations around some of the low-income assistance. So this is a follow-up to our last discussion, and really trying to go through the steps of what it will take to expand enrollment in our current low-income discount program. So this will live on beyond the relatively short time frame associated with the CARES Act grant, but really focused on the ease of enrollment and outreach. So Sharon will go through that, and then there'll be a presentation about the CARES grant program. The issue I think that will not get addressed today is issues around arrears and debt. So thank you. And I'm available to answer questions if necessary. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, commissioners. So on September 21st, I briefly described some of our efforts to support our low-income customers. Today, I'd like to talk specifically about the LADWP Low-Income Discount Program. Next slide, please. This is an income-qualified program with specific criteria needed to qualify. In this presentation, we explore opportunities to broaden the outreach, increase enrollment, and make the program easier to apply for. I've been talking to utilities across the country for several weeks, and everyone is grappling with these same concerns. Next slide. The income eligibility is used consistently in California and mirrors the California Public Utility Commission on setting the income levels. And as a reminder, our low-income discount is approximately $8 per month for our residential customers. Next slide. At the beginning of this year, the Los Angeles Comptroller published its audit of both the Lifeline and low-income discount programs. The recommendations were given as three broad categories: improve outreach, improve measurement, and strengthen program integrity. We agree with these recommendations. As we work to grow customers' accessibility to our low-income discount program, we have kept these recommendations in mind. Next slide. Our current enrollment in both the low-income and Lifeline discounts is approximately 210,000 customers, with about 115,000 to 116,000 in the low-income discount program specifically. And enrollment has been declining. It's down 35,000 since last year. We know based on customer analytics that many neighborhoods have customers who could qualify. Out of our 115 Los Angeles neighborhoods, there are 14 with gaps of more than 50% who may qualify for this discount but are not currently enrolled. As concerning is the percentage of customers who did not recertify before their expiration date. This may cause customers to miss a discount when they reapply or just fail to reapply. Next slide. Barriers to enrollment are a pain point that persists, as indicated by declining enrollment numbers. There is a language barrier. We have undocumented customers. Our application has to be filled out and documentation provided. This issue is not unique to LADWP. Utilities across the country are dealing with these same issues when trying to reach the target populations. Next slide. We must take action on fundamental areas that are creating barriers to enrollment. These can include allowing customers to self-certify that they meet the income requirements. This creates a much quicker enrollment process and doesn't require customers to produce documentation up front. Customers must also check a box that they may be asked to produce proof if there is an audit. And this is similar to several area utilities who currently allow self-certification. We can automatically recertify customers based on known credit data. This would be as simple as having a customer check a box or reply to an email to recertify once enrolled in the program. We can expand the current 3-year certification requirement to 5 years. This reduces churn of the application process and helps staff focus on more outreach rather than just application processing. And we can expand the field of enrollment, such as letting customers check an eligible box when certifying for low-income housing. Next slide. Ways that we can greatly expand outreach include providing the application in multiple common languages in Los Angeles, such as English, Spanish, Korean, Russian, Armenian, Mandarin, and targeting emails and mail campaigns to potentially eligible customers. And finally, most importantly, and we heard it a little bit in the public comments today, to work with our CBOs who are known and trusted by our customers. We can better leverage their expertise in several ways, including funding through grants, increase the amount of grantees in the programs, and continue to partner with them as they give us invaluable input and guidance on customer outreach. Next slide. Greatly expanding a program that has been declining is only beneficial to our customers if we get them on as fast as possible. Currently, there is a quick turnaround for their applications. But if the application process is made easier and applications come in larger numbers, which we want, we need to have the support to get the discount rates attached to our customers' accounts. The current process is manual, and getting it automated, having easier website navigation, and utilizing customer analytics can keep this program sustainable going forward. Most importantly, moving to more formal CBO relationships can help this effort and other sustainability efforts, such as our myriad water and energy conservation programs. Next slide. Although we cannot make every eligible customer enroll, we want to make sure that every eligible customer is aware and knows how to enroll in the program. We have seen a 130% increase in the last quarter of customers who have recertified prior to their discount expiring. So our efforts are showing some early results. increasing the recertification from 3 to 5 years, allowing customers to self-certify that they meet the income qualifications, and expanding outreach through our marketing efforts and more formal relationships with our CBOs can combine to help our customers manage through this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor for questions by commissioners. Are there any questions?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Barad. Sharon, this is very thorough, but I wondered when you identify who's in this program or who may be eligible, are you considering then the effect of COVID on their particular what they're going through right now and how it may affect their eligibility?
Yes, that's correct. By allowing customers to self-certify, we can now incorporate customers who've been impacted specifically by COVID, such as losing their job or having their hours reduced. They would then qualify if they self-certify that they're in a new situation economically.
Sharon, that helps get around the fact that a lot of people may not have the documentation yet. Is that correct?
They might not have the documentation. You know, previously the types of documentation we would do are tax returns, W-2s, check stubs. But this way, many customers have situations that have recently drastically changed, and then we don't have to hold them to the same criteria as we did previously.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of add what Marty did, which is to date it's been a look back over a year, and now with the self-certification, as long as they meet the criteria, it should make things a lot easier for folks who are having difficulty right now.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I assume that these numbers, for instance, out of 150 neighborhoods with enrollment gaps, we have more than 14 of those neighborhoods have gaps of more than 50%. That's just data that's independent of COVID impact. That's sort of what the situation has been, because I don't want us to lose focus on the fact that if we've got 115,000 people enrolled, I think, Sharon, you told me that you think the overall eligibility is probably somewhere around 450,000. So we have a pretty significant gap independent of COVID, which is, I think, what we're really, and to the point that you made earlier, Nancy, we're really trying to focus on how we administer these programs and support low-income residents in Los Angeles, independent of, or over the long term, both in context of the, epidemic, which has, I think, increased our focus on this customer, but also just in the context of the, extreme levels of poverty within the city of Los Angeles that this department has to begin to grapple with as a public utility serving those customers.
Yeah, one thing I might just add on the 14 neighborhoods is that we can take advantage of infrastructure we have in place already through our community partnership grants that are in each council district and some citywide as well. That gives us sort of a running start in terms of being able to reach all parts of the city, and then looking at ways that we can expand that partnership with CBOs who are trusted in the community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any additional questions from the commissioners that are participating remotely before Susanna and I weigh in?
Yes, just one quick question. Am I to understand correctly that in order to be eligible for the grant, which we will be discussing later, you need to be enrolled in this program? Is that correct?
That is, they get priority. You don't have to be enrolled, but the priority, folks will be given priority who are currently enrolled in our low-income program.
Yeah, you need to be eligible whether you're enrolled or not, and then priority in the lottery would be given to those who are currently enrolled.
I'm sorry.
So you need to be, basically, you need to be low income in order to participate in the program at all. However, given that only 115 616,000 people are currently enrolled in our program. Those people that are currently enrolled will receive priority, but others who are also low income but not enrolled will be eligible as well. But we'll talk about that shortly. Okay. So any other questions with respect to the presentation on expanding the reach of our current low-income program?
This is Fred Pickle, ratepayer advocate.
Yes.
One question about slide 7. In changing recertification to 5 years versus 3, the telecommunications industry, in applying this, asks customers for permission to look at their credit histories for purposes of redetermining certification every 1 year. And we all hope that this is a V-shaped recovery from this disease problem, but I think it would be useful as we move forward, not immediately, but as we move forward, to consider using some of the infrastructure developed by the telecom industry and their low-income certifications.
Thank you for that. Susanna?
Thank you. Thank you. This is a much improved presentation, a lot more actions that will be taken. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Sharon and team. My only question is about IT readiness. We mentioned about streamlining the applications, certifications, recertification, outreach, and all that. That all depends on how ready the back end is. How our applications right now are static, they're not interactive. Not everyone, can certify via online. So are there resources that we are providing to customers who don't have computers or smartphones? And then actually on some of the monitoring, when we monitor how many people have enrolled. So that the data part of it is my concern, and the applications, if we're gonna make it more robust and user-friendly, what are the steps or what's the action plan for that?
So currently and in the future, we do allow customers to, we can help them fill it out over the phone, they can mail it to us, they can email it to us, they can work through their CBOs to get the application filled out. So we try to make as many channels as possible for customers to fill out the application, and that will still be available to customers. But you're right. Being able to automate this more effectively, because we hope that this will greatly expand the amount of enrollment in our program, we would need resources to provide some of that automation that we do not currently have.
Did you have additional questions?
So that's one thing that I would like to see is what resources do you need, so that there can be an executive decision about that moving forward. And the other suggestion I have, and I think I've discussed it with you as well, is the one-stop shop, which will really make it easier for our customers when we have, if they can go to one portal where the applications for the different discount programs and assistance programs are there. And they can then also take a look at rebate programs that we have. So just consider it as part of an action plan once our IT folks are ready to make that happen. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as I indicated at the outset, I am extremely excited and deeply grateful that you've brought forward a presentation that we can actually begin to implement and see some significant change today. I know that we have CBOs that are ready and eager to move out into the community and to help us close the eligibility to enrollment gap. And I'm excited to see that implemented and don't believe that there are any barriers to implementing that right now. I did take note of, I did take note of the, some of the things that you outlined as it relates to resources needed to support. And, but for instance, when I look at things like targeting email campaigns to identify potentially eligible customers, I mean, we can do that now. We don't need any particular new resources. We just need to direct our energies toward identifying those potentially eligible customers and getting them enrolled. Expanding the partnerships, we can do that now. As it relates to application availability in common languages, I know that that can be done. So, so when I look at the outreach efforts that we need to expand, I would expect that those would be things that you could report as underway the next time that you're before this board. Things like the additional resources that you may need to support an increase in enrollment. I assume that you will have a plan for handling that, and that we will see, to the extent that there's some ramp up that requires additional budgeting, that we'll see that in the budget. And as it relates to the website enhancements, I have difficulty talking about our website. and can't get involved in anything related to that as a barrier to what we need to accomplish, because I continue to wonder when in this lifetime we will actually improve the website. But by and large, is there a timeline that we can think through or that you have thought through with respect to when we'll start to see these additional outreach efforts ramped up? With respect to moving to a self-certification, I mean, is there any barrier to our doing that tomorrow? I mean, I think as Commissioner Reyes has indicated, I'm interested in understanding now when.
So you are correct that we can do current outreach immediately, and we can do those types of email campaigns, that type of thing. As far as the timeline, we do need to get resources to help automate some of those current processes. And so if I was to receive approval to get those resources, I think we can get up and running in about 60 days with that piece of it.
Is there automation? Is there something needed to move from the current requirements with respect to documentation to a self-certification process?
Right. So the process right now is very manual. We get the application and somebody physically checks the documentation, which goes away.
Correct.
But they also have to physically go into the account and sign up on an individual basis, the account and with the expiration date. There is some basic automation that will automatically expire a customer after 3 years, but we don't have any of the type of automation to be able to recertify customers or to make sure that somehow we can get automated applications directly into the account. If we do reach some of our goals, which get, let's just say we get 100,000 more people on this discount, we want to make sure they immediately get on the discount.
But we're not going to get 100,000 more people on the discount like tomorrow, right? So
Correct.
I would assume that putting in the infrastructure to begin the outreach and changing the applications and things of that nature is something that you can work on concurrently with setting yourself up to process the additional applications that come in, that we don't have to wait until the automation is complete before we actually start the other pieces.
That is correct. And the final question that you asked is, can we start these things, these self-certification, expanding? And to be honest, I'm unclear about my authorization to do that. If the board is authorizing
that was going to be my next question, and that is, does the board need to take an action in order for this program to move forward in this way? Because if that's the case, then we will have to schedule an action item at our next board meeting. So I was basically asking the process questions to make sure that we understand from an organizational management perspective that this work should be started. Then from an action perspective, does the board need to take an action in order to move the program eligibility criteria from one that requires documentation at the outset to one that allows for self-certification with the provision that it could be audited in the context, that it could be, documentation can be required in the context of an audit.
Before I answer that, I see the general manager.
I say,
might have-
were these board adopted guidelines or just administrative guidelines we put in place internally? Do you
I
know?
mean, the 3-year
Yeah,
position?
and the application process and self-certification.
Those were, well, they were part of, when we went back to look at the beginning of the program, the board did authorize the 3-year recertification, so it was on a board memo, but we were still unclear if that was just something that they were just setting up for administration purposes. It was very difficult to determine
So why don't
exactly.
we do this, just to make it clean and to be safe? Why don't we why don't we review the board memo that was previously acted upon and bring back a similar memo for board action with respect to the changes that are outlined in this particular program, so that we can move forward and we can bring that back for a meeting, for our very next board meeting. In the meantime, I would just like to say again, much appreciated, and this is an important first step in our effort to align our actions with our intentions in the context of making it easier for our low-income customers to be part of and take advantage of any eligible discounts that are offered by this department. So I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
And we'll capture these ideas for the board next time, and we'll begin moving in the meantime to get this instituted. Yes.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you very much. And we continue to look forward to additional guidance from the city attorney in the context of other potential changes to this program. So with that, we'll move to 8B.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Ann Santilli, the Department's Chief Financial Officer, and I'd like to discuss item 8B, which is the CARES Utility Grant Assistance Program. Next slide. The Department has an opportunity to assist low-income customers with a grant of $500 to help them with their non-city utility bills. Funding of the grant is through the CARES funding received by the City of Los Angeles. The Board of Water and Power Commissioners' approval is being requested to administer the LADWP CARES Utility Grant Program. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a tremendous financial impact on many Los Angeles residents and has left many struggling to keep up with their basic utility bills. Customers who are low income are especially at financial risk due to job loss, lack of health insurance, and below standard housing conditions. Next slide. The City Council developed the CARES Utility Grant Assistance Program to assist customers with their overall utility bills and is requesting LADWP's assistance to administer the program. Through this program, up to 100,000 COVID-impacted, income-qualified LADWP customers who are residents of the City of Los Angeles will receive $500 to assist them with their eligible utility bills. LADWP will administer and implement the COVID-19 Utility Grant Program in accordance with the requirements of the CARES Act. The LADWP CARES Utility Grant will be administered through a collaboration of staff to meet the tight timeline. This will be done through the help of customer service, our ITS group, and financial services organization. Next slide. LADWP will accept applications online only from November 2nd to November 15th. Eligibility is LADWP active customers who are residents of the City of Los Angeles and meet the income guidelines. Recipients will be selected by a lottery from the applicants who will submit a complete application. Next slide. Customers who are currently enrolled in one of LADWP discount programs will be prioritized. Customers who are currently not enrolled but who meet the income eligibility will be selected for participation by lottery using the remaining funds. Next slide. Applicants will need to apply online at the ladwp.com/utilitycares website. Customers who do not have an online account with us right now can sign up for one. Because of the tight timeline, no paper applications will be accepted. The customer will have to certify that they meet our low-income guidelines. Next slide. In addition to the income certifications, they will also need to upload at least one document showing that they or a member of their household has been financially impacted by COVID-19. And this can be a documentation showing a job loss, reduced hours, layoff notice of any household member, income reduction due to closure of business or impact, potential, they've had medical bills due to COVID, extraordinary child care expenses, any additional factors that show that their household has been financially impacted by COVID would be accepted. Another example is unemployment benefits. And customer service will have staff who can assist customers as we're in the application process to answer questions. Next slide. LADWP will remove duplicate applications. So we expect from listening to other CARES programs that customers may apply multiple times. What we plan to do is accept the last one. That will stay in the lottery. Applicants will be cross-referenced to determine if they are part of our current discount program. LADWP staff will review the uploaded documents to ensure compliance with the program guidelines. And financial services will be working with the department's commercial bank to issue the checks by December 18th. Next slide. Customers should cash or deposit their grant checks immediately. We are administering the federal money, so we will need to report back. We will not be able to replace lost or stolen checks. LADWP will report back to City Council to report the amount of funds expended through the program. Next slide. The department does have a program outreach plan in place. On October 29th, there will be a community-based organization meeting held. So far, Lane, NRDC, Liberty Hill, Pacoima Beautiful, Communities for a Better Environment, Strategic Actions for a Just Economy, Scope LA, and Delivery Associates have all been invited to the community meeting this Thursday at 2 o'clock. Customer service will be helping answer questions and show them the website to upload the application. Our public affairs group also has additional press release plans, social media advertising, customer emails, digital ads, community ad for newspapers, and IVR recordings. Next slide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
Okay, terrific. We'll start with commissioners who are participating remotely. Any commissioners with questions? Commissioner Neiman Brady? No? All right.
Can I ask Nancy to offer a couple comments, please?
Thank you. Just a couple of additional comments on the outreach. We certainly appreciate the efforts by the City Council and the board to put this program in place, and the advocacy by the organizations. I think we're trying to put together a robust outreach plan to make sure that everybody who could be eligible for this program is aware of it and can get their application in on time, and we'll really look to the assistance of these community-based organizations to get the word out. But I think for me the biggest thing is we are in a very tight time frame. So there will be a meeting later this week. We will also use our existing community partnership grants to amplify the outreach. but everything is on just a super fast time frame. So we're all poised and ready to go, and look forward to the assistance from organizations that spoke this morning and others to help us get the word out.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes.
Just really appreciate the plan to get this going. Again, we'll be leaning on our IT folks to make sure that those online applications get through and are completed as best as they can. Otherwise, it may be rejected because there are requirements by the federal government as to what constitutes a completed application for the CARES, for this utility grant program. I also want to ensure that our community-based organizations clearly understand what their role will be in this process, how they could really assist our customers who may need translation resources, who may need additional help in completing those applications. And the best folks who can really do that for now, because we are in a tight time frame, are those organizations who are already there and are communicating with our low-income folks. So I appreciate that component of this plan. I know that we cannot do this without a partnership effort. This is such a tight time frame, and I wish everyone good luck. I hope that we are providing Marty the resources that they need in order to make this happen, because that's a lot of money, and our low-income folks really need that during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have a couple of questions. We just heard a presentation from Sharon Grove where she indicated that there would be additional resources necessary in order to expand our low-income program, where we would not expect a flood of applications that need to be reviewed for documentation with respect to the COVID documentation, and indicated that that would be a challenge. This is after we self-certify. So I am curious as to what provisions will be made to make sure that we have the staffing available to both accept these, to review the COVID documentation that is required as a part of these applications in order to, approve them to be either accepted and processed for grants or entered into the lottery.
Yeah, George Raffel, I think, is on the line, can speak to that. George, are you there?
He is.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, this is George Raffel, customer service. What we're planning to do is the application review period will be conducted over a 2-week period. So we're reallocating resources from our contact center and service center to be able to assist us with the application reviews. So we've asked for volunteers. We've received about 140 or so that have volunteered to assist with this, and we're also getting assistance from FSO, who are handling, reviewing some of the applications that have been reviewed for an auditing, just to make sure that nothing's kind of slipping through the cracks. So as a result of this, we are expecting call wait times to increase during this time as we allocate these resources. But it is for a 2-week period that'll be happening in the latter part of November.
Yeah. So we will throw everything we can at it, because, but we may expect some short-term impacts on that. And then I know in talking with IT folks, they are expecting but nervous about a big surge of applications, and we know that some of the other CARES Act programs that the city's launched have been challenging for the city's IT system. So we're hopeful that that won't happen to us, but we'll just have to see.
And so we open applications, is it November 2nd? Is that
that's right,
the date that I recall? And
Yes.
Our next board meeting is what date?
It would be the
10th, but we want to discuss, because of the next one would fall during Thanksgiving week, about if we want to, sometimes we split the difference, so we want to talk about that later on offline, about what the best time for a meeting is, but it'll be the first or second week in November.
The 10th is my birthday, so.
Big cake. The 10th is?
Yes.
Is that a hint or a non-hint?
So at a minimum, I would want a report back at the next board meeting with respect to how our systems are holding up in connection with the application process, and to make sure that we have thought through some backup plans, because I do know that the challenge, that other departments or other efforts to administer CARES funds have resulted in some unexpected, technical difficulties. And should we encounter issues, we are going, given the limited time, we're going to need to have a plan to overcome them so that we can stay on track.
Yeah, one thing we'll try to emphasize in the messaging is that it's you don't have to get your application in on the first day. There is an application period, and all applications will be reviewed and then in the lottery. So we'll try to make sure. So maybe that will help a little bit with a big wave at the beginning. It's a little hard to know, but we'll try to make that as part of the messaging, is that you can get it in any time during the application period. You don't have to get it in on Monday morning at 9 a.m. So that people will have the time first to gather whatever they need, but also hopefully that will help a little bit with managing the wave.
And the next board meeting,
Thank you.
no matter what the date is, it'll be very timely to report back and let you know how we're doing on this, and if we have any issues or not. So.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only other observation is that we want to be clear that the department is administering CARES Act funding, and while the department is absorbing the cost of that administration, these are dollars that are coming in from the federal government, and we're administering the grant program primarily because those dollars are being targeted toward utility relief as opposed to other kinds of support. And I say that only to distinguish this from the department's longer term and more, and from my perspective, more sustained effort to review ways that we can assist our customers with utility debt. We've been asked to identify, frankly, we've been asked to not only identify but report back to the city council by motion of the city council president on efforts that the department can undertake to assist utility customers with their DWP debt. This is not that effort. This is, frankly, an effort that specifically cannot be directly applied. Customers can pay whatever utility-related debt that they see fit. So while I am more than pleased that the department is in a position to use its infrastructure to administer these funds, and that the criteria or that priority will be given to current low-income customers, I do want to underscore the department's ongoing efforts to be responsive to the council president's motion. So with that, if there's nothing else, we can move to
one question.
Certainly.
Again, Fred Pickle, Rapier Advocate. One question about handling customers that don't have computers or no longer have or have lost internet access. How are we going to help them get upload documents, get scans of documents? Is a smartphone-friendly version going to be available where they can take pictures of these documents to help upload them? Questions around that. Access to computer for those that may have been impacted in their computer abilities.
Hi, this is George Orfel. So the website can be used on smartphones, so they will be able to access the application online through their phones. We've also working with the city for the possibility where it's not firmed up yet for their resource centers to be able to assist. And we're also going to be discussing with community-based organizations to see what additional support can be provided through them also.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking given the time frame we're talking about, we have to mobilize existing infrastructure to do that. So hopefully that will be sufficient, and that may be a very good role for some of the community-based organizations if they already provide internet access or can find ways to do it easily.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this conversation, and I think it's really important to have brought up the inability to access or to have sort of tech knowledge. What resource centers are we talking about? Where I mean, in the past, these kind of services would have been through libraries. You know, libraries started serving this function, the public libraries. So, what are the resource centers? Are those DWP resource centers?
No, they would not be DWP resource centers. The ones that are being looked at right now for potential are city, like the Family Resource Center, which are done in partnerships with other organizations. So that hasn't been firmed up yet.
Okay.
It's investigated.
Because that will become really important, and it's not like we're going, you know, like the financial situation will not possibly get, you know, worse before it gets better. So I think this conversation is really important because the next 6 months are going to be critical if we're going to, you know, really be able to help people that are in dire need. So I know that LA Trade Tech and the mayor's office have been working on some sort of an idea of resource centers. So I'll have somebody, we'll have to connect with the mayor's office on that and what that's yielding. So it might be that you could work with already an effort ongoing about this resource centers.
And the mayor's office is also invited to next Thursday's meeting with the community-based organizations, so that'll be a nice touch point.
Okay, great. All right.
Commissioner, any additional questions or comments? Okay, well, hearing none, it looks like we can move. Thank you, Nancy. And as I said, we will have a report back at our next board meeting. And I also know that the staff will be proactively reaching out to, and has been reaching out to others in the city who've had prior experience with these efforts. So I appreciate that. We'll move to 8C.
Okay, as we go into the LA DWP restoration report in the Mono Basin, first, I'd like, before he starts, I'd like Adam Perez to stand up and not hide behind the TV screen. Adam is our new aqueduct manager. He moved his family up to Bishop about 3 years ago, and in July he took over management of the aqueduct, and we're happy to have him there. If we can keep him out of the streams fishing all the time, we're in good shape, but he's our personal fish monitor. He is taking well to the Owens Valley, as it's I think it's embraced him as well, and we really appreciate his move up there. Management folks in the Owens Valley is always difficult because folks are either down here or up there, and people have to make major life transitions. And in the old days when housing costs weren't what they were, it was a lot simpler, and things have been more challenging recently. And Adam, at this point in his career, he was down here as a geotechnical engineer and worked a lot on the dams in the Owens Valley. He's an excellent manager and a rising star in the water system. So I just want to thank him for coming down today to be with his team and introduce him and recognize him. Our presentation today is by Dr. Dave Martin. Dave has been in the Owens Valley since he relocated from Idaho many years ago. He's had a career with us. Just to note, when he started in the what's now the Watershed Management Group, there was probably just a handful of people at most. 4, yes, because before him it was 2. So he now manages a team of over 24 scientists. They went from being range and wildlife specialists to watershed management specialists. A lot of times they call themselves the Bugs and Bunnies group. But make no doubt about it, we have a couple dozen very serious, very highly educated people who manage all aspects of wildlife, plant life, aspects of a watershed, which is becoming an increasingly important part of operating the aqueduct. And it used to be kind of a side business. Now it's part and parcel to everything we do up north. So Dave manages that group, and appreciate him coming down. You heard a couple comments from folks from County Supervisor Bob Gardner and Jeff McQuilkin from Mono Lake Committee interested in this presentation. This is to give the board an update on what's been done in the Mono Basin, as kind of setting the stage now. As was mentioned, on Friday we'll be putting out the M&D for public review for the upcoming project to meet the new stream flow requirements and basically reissue the license that we have for diversions from the Mono Basin. So Dave will give us a brief presentation about where we are so you can have a sense of grounding as a starting point.
Thank you. It's great to be down here, an opportunity to give you a very brief presentation on all the work that the city and the department have been doing in the Mono Basin. This opening slide is just a small touch of some of the things we do. The top right photo is a sage grouse. Our staff is actively involved in studies with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Geological Survey in enhancing and maintaining and restoring sage grouse habitat in the Mono Basin. Bottom left-hand photo is a picture of Grant Reservoir. Our staff does temperature profiles on there to assess what the temperature effects within the reservoir might have on fisheries. And the bottom right-hand photo is one of our field crews actually conducting fisheries sampling in one of the creeks, tributary streams to Mono Lake. This is just a very brief time synopsis of what's occurred. This discussion could take many hours or even days to thoroughly cover. The city began the extension of the Los Angeles Aqueduct into the Mono Basin in the late 1930s. In 1941, we began exporting water from the Mono Basin by capturing all of the stream flow from 4 tributary streams to the lake. So the downstream from our diversion points, the streams were completely dried up. And there was a significant loss of riparian vegetation along the streams, and fish habitat was also lost. In the early 1980s, 1982, 1983, there was a series of wet years. The capacity of the aqueduct was exceeded, and water flowed past our diversion structures, rewatering the creeks and establishing fisheries. There's a long, complex legal wrangling that occurred between the 1980s and 1994, when the State Water Resources Control Board subsequently issued Decision 1631 that amended our water rights licenses and changed our allowable exports from the basin. In 1998, there were 2 subsequent orders by the Water Board, 9805 and 9807, that further codified our stream restoration efforts, fisheries restoration efforts, and waterfowl habitat restoration efforts. From 1998 until 2010, our staff worked very diligently, often in partnership with the Mono Lake Committee, to implement a number of restoration activities. We did a large-scale wetland restoration project along Rush Creek. We participated in tree plantings, procured trees for the Mono Lake Committee for their planting efforts, side channel openings to improve waterfowl habitat, and of course restored stream flow for the fisheries, and placed large woody debris in the creeks that enhanced fish habitat. During that time, from 1998 until 2010, the State Water Board had a couple of scientists, we call them the stream scientists, that were studying the effects of our restoration activities on the streamside vegetation and on the fisheries, as well as the waterfowl and the limnology in the lake. In 2010, those scientists were charged by the State Water Board to develop what we've called the synthesis report. So they analyzed all the data that had ever been collected and made recommendations on how to move forward in the Mono Basin to further enhance the restoration efforts of those tributary streams. So as I mentioned, there were a number of activities that we were tasked with doing under a variety of documents. There were 66 different things that we were supposed to do. Many of them have been completed. Some of them we still have to do. We have to do continuous flow maintenance. We still go out and place large weeded debris in the creeks. But the reduction in diversions or reduction in exports from the Mono Basin to the city started about the same time as some restrictions on exports from other places in the Eastern Sierra, and started the city on looking and evaluating how it could become more sustainable. And so while the exports from the basin have been cut 80%, in the city, there's been a great deal of expenditure on conservation efforts, and I'm going to talk about that slide in just a minute. We've also been very active in stream restoration. We continue to maintain that. And as Marty indicated, there's a large capital project that is getting ready to start soon. This slide is way outside of my wheelhouse. I'm an ecologist. But it's exciting to work for a company that is forward-thinking as the department is with regard to a number of efforts to enhance local water supply within the city limits. Water recycling project next, very important. Our stormwater capture program and groundwater replenishment and remediations. I think those are going to go a long way in relieving some of the stress that the water exports from the Eastern Sierra have experienced. And additionally, our customers and our ratepayers have been doing a fabulous job with their water conservation efforts. If you look at the population growth of the city continues to decline, per capita water use continues to go down. So it's anticipated that we're going to be able to meet our customers' demands for water with, due to their conservation efforts. This slide just briefly discusses or shows or illustrates how much the water has changed from the Eastern Sierra. If you look at our long-term average of exports from the entire Eastern Sierra was about 416,000 acres. There have been a number of projects I alluded to earlier that have impacted or reduced those imports to the city or exports from the Eastern Sierra. Mono Lake, the Inyo LA Water Agreement, and dust mitigation efforts on Owens Lake are a few. We're also seeing some decline in water supply that we can only attribute perhaps to climate change. There's about a 60,000 acre foot reduction in water. We just don't know where it's gone. And so our current exports to the city from the Eastern Sierra are about 250,000 acre feet per year. During the time that we've been working, Mono Lake elevation's raised about 10 feet. It currently sits about, I didn't look at the number this morning, but I believe it's 6381.3. The target elevation for the lake is 6392 feet above mean sea level. Now we're going to get back into some of the stuff that I'm more comfortable with. Restoration efforts in the Mono Basin. As I mentioned, Water Board Orders 9805 and 9807, they kind of adopted the department's fisheries, stream, and waterfowl habitat restoration plans. And I've spent my career involved in implementing those or overseeing the implementation of those. And those programs are to restore the habitat for the streamside vegetation, restore the habitat for the fisheries, restore habitat for waterfowl, and increase the lake elevation. So on this series of photographs, there's a picture of Parker Creek. There's a picture of a brown trout, and again, our crew's out sampling the fisheries. In 2017, we had an opportunity to capture some really nice high-quality aerial imagery. We compared that aerial imagery back to pre-diversion aerial photography that existed, and we mapped the extent of riparian vegetation or the streamside vegetation. And what we found was that overall, the acreage of riparian habitat, the willows and trees that are along those stream systems, is at or greater than what it was prior to the diversions that the department started. In addition, there's been a number of land management changes that have improved the conditions along those stream systems. We no longer allow unrestricted livestock grazing. There's no livestock grazing in the Mono Basin. We've eliminated a lot of vehicular access. I remember one of my first trips to the basin, and I walked out along a creek, and there was a camper there with their gray water tank and their black water tank both draining into the streams. And so we've eliminated a lot of that by closing roads, and it's had a positive benefit on the stream system. In addition to the vegetation, the fisheries responded very well. There is a natural self-sustaining trout population. We've been monitoring it with the fisheries scientists from the State Water Board for more than 24 years. Populations of the fisheries do fluctuate greatly. In 2019, there were about 26 young of the year fish captured. 2018, about 1,500. So there are a lot of different things that affect the trout populations, but we are seeing a naturally self-sustaining trout population. In addition to the fisheries, the avian community has responded very well. Willow flycatcher and yellow warblers, both California species of special concerns, have reestablished populations in the basin. The State Water Board Waterfowl Program Director is also a department employee, and she has reported that the waterfowl populations are doing very well in the basin as well. These are just a couple of photos to illustrate how far things have come since we started. The photo on the right is the Rush Creek Delta in 1987. It's a couple of years after the water flows resumed in the creeks. The middle top is Rush Creek at Old 395. The top right is the Mona Return Ditch, which is the way we get water from Grant Reservoir into Rush Creek. And then the bottom right, is the Rush Creek Delta in 1987. So if you look, I don't have a pointer, but if you look, pay attention on the next slide to this feature and this feature. And here is this feature of the Rush Creek Delta in 2020, and that power pole in 2020 that I showed you earlier. So this has been the response of the vegetation community to the restoration efforts. It's been fantastic. Also, another photo of the Rush Creek Delta and the Mona Return Ditch. As I mentioned, we've completed and have ongoing more than 66 projects in the basin, and it's time to look forward to where are we headed in the future. The synthesis report came out, and the department was then tasked with evaluating the feasibility of implementing the recommendations from the stream scientists. At that point in time, there was some controversy. Some of the folks that worked for the department didn't think that a number of the things that the stream scientists were recommending were necessary or feasible. Rather than have a fight, we entered into a facilitated process that lasted a few years and resulted in the 2013 settlement agreement between Mono Lake, CalTrout, the Department of Water and Power, and Cal Fish and Game. Between 2013 and 2019, the department conducted a number of technical studies to evaluate what the potential effects of implementing the flow regime described in the feasibility report and the synthesis report might be. We wrapped those up and began the CEQA evaluation of development of a new water rights license for the city's exports from the Mono Basin, evaluating how those potential new flows might affect the riparian systems, and evaluated what the potential effects of construction of any facilities or facility upgrades might be. And as Marty indicated, that document should be getting ready to go out onto the streets on Friday. And I'll leave you with a very nice picture of the uppermost portion of the Los Angeles Aqueduct. This is the forebay of the Lee Vining intake, and I'd be happy to try and address any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. Marty, did you have any comments before we go to questions?
No, I think, like I said, we'd wanted to show the board, what's transpired over the years. As Dave said, there's many years of history. I think much of public trust doctrine and a lot of CEQA law surrounds the Mono Lake case. And so a lot of good has happened. There's more good coming, as you'll see from the M&D when it comes to the board for certification, so we can proceed with the project. But this gives you an idea of what's going, and that we have had a lot of significant progress and improvements over the years. Matter of fact, I did see a commercial from Mono County it was a posting recently, and it was a picture, I think, of Rush Creek, and it was an advertisement to come and tour and fish and enjoy the outdoors. So it's nice to know that we're on the right track, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none on the board. Commissioner Reyes?
I appreciate their report, especially on the restoration efforts for the wildlife and the riparian situation over there. What other are there other small scale diversions happening right now? Or is that completely stopped? We're just on the restoration
Within the
effort?
Mono Basin?
Yes.
We currently, our exports are determined based on what the elevation of Mono Lake is. And at the current elevation of the lake, we're allowed to export up to 16,000 acre feet per year.
Right. And you said that is already a reduction, right?
That is a significant reduction. Historically, we exported approximately 80,000 acre feet on average per year from the basin.
And then there's also a level where if it gets a certain level, we go down to 4,500 acre feet, and then below that, 0. We were at 4,500 acre feet a year for a couple years during the drought, and then the lakes come back up, and then at the level, the prescribed level, then a new set of rules take effect when it gets to that level. So
once the Mono Lake elevation reaches 6392, we change from what we call pre-transition. We're in pre-transition period right now.
Okay, that's my, yeah.
And so post-transition, our allowable exports will change. And we're still, I think internally, we're trying to develop a model that's going to help us, because once you hit that post-transition level, if you drop the lake elevation back down too far, then your exports are completely cut off. And so what we're looking at is modeling to try and develop a sustainable allowable of exports from the basin, so that it's more dependable. It's not going to be on and off and on and off, and it's not a water delivery that you can count on.
Appreciate that. Now I have a watershed question.
Okay.
He's the man.
Right. You know, that area has been experiencing the wildfires, right? Huge, intense wildfires. What are the immediate impacts on the watershed areas?
So we've been fortunate that we haven't had any large-scale wildfires in our system,
Okay.
Or that are going to likely affect our system this year. It's most likely that we will experience that at some point in the future. Likely first scenario is during the winter precipitation period, we're going to see increased debris and sediment runoff from the watershed, which will affect all of our facilities. You know, we'll get sedimentation in our diversion structures, sedimentation in our pipes that it's going to be very difficult to clean out.
We did have a fire along the Owens River several years ago, and that it's interesting because it also had some positive effects too. I think of the fire down in Lone Pine. Could you describe what happened in that?
So there was a wildfire in Lone Pine. It happened on a windy day, and the fire was running along the riparian corridor very quickly.
Right.
There was a lot of fuels. It was early in the spring before we'd started to get green up. We were very fortunate that we had facilities in the vicinity. We had the Alabama Gates. And so the aqueduct manager at that time authorized the release of water from the Alabama Gates. The fire was running to Lone Pine. They were getting ready to evacuate the town of Lone Pine. We opened up water, the Alabama Gates began a release out there and essentially just stopped the forward progress of the fire. So our operations activities were able to reduce the threat to Lone Pine. The ecological effect of that was relatively short term. The ash had a lot of nutrients in it. It fertilized the riparian community, and the tules came back with a vengeance. So, you know, it was a short-lived. In that section of the lower Owens River, we have an issue with a buildup of tules, undesirable plant species that inhibit the water movement. And, you know, for a brief period, we had an open water situation where you could actually access the river before by the midsummer, the tules came back in.
Right. Thank you for that info.
Any questions at the board? Commissioner Lair? I don't think your mic is on.
Yes. I just want to commend you for all this amazing work, and you know, we're lucky to have professionals who just, have spent decades with us or lifetimes of work, and it's wonderful. I think it'd be really good to have some form of a little documentary of the work you've done, because it's, the power of the before and after, but just you're telling the story, and part of it, I'm thinking, how do I tell, my family and my friends and my staff what's going on, and it's wonderful. So having these stories being told, that they're good stories, they're feel-good stories, and also inspiring young people to go into professions like yours. And we have so many young, so many high school students trying to figure out what to do in their lives, and also some that are going to be graduating in the next few months who are trying to figure out what to do. So I just think this is you open up a really wonderful sort of set of professions that it's hard for young people to be exposed to. So just a suggestion on how to get the word out on several levels of your accomplishments and more.
Thank you.
Can
I'm sorry, Marty.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. You just gave me a couple of really good ideas with your comments. Maybe Dave will have some more students to tromp around with him. But I will say, because he won't say himself, they also manage the Lower Owens River Restoration Project, which is the longest river restoration in the country. When we were up there with a number of the environmental groups from LA, as well as LA County and some of the mayor's office, one of the mayor's office staff made the comment looking at it. She said, we should bring these guys down to talk about the LA River because they've already done river restoration. And so we do try to make them travel down here and take advantage of their knowledge at some of our facilities as well. But I think your point is well taken. This is a tremendously important area of job opportunity and growth and interest, and certainly the environment in LA needs the kind of attention that the environment in the Owens Valley has gotten, and we'll do what we can to try to expand that knowledge.
Yes, and I think it's, we talk about green technology, and most of us think of it as, very sort of sophisticated technology, and I think this spans the breadth of, sort of professional sort of opportunities.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, as we close this presentation, that so much of the mythology of this department and, frankly, of the city is captured in the context of our water rights and current, past and current utilization. The slides that you presented that just jumped out at me and that really underscore why we cannot say enough about the current management and of our water systems is the slide that you indicated you were the least comfortable presenting. That slide where you showed the slide titled Leading the Way for Long-Term Water Supply Reliability, and every chance we get, we should shout from the rooftops that our customers themselves have cut their water usage by 44%, which is quite an extraordinary thing, and also that this department has undertaken through Operation Next an incredibly significant program which will have extraordinary impacts with respect to water reliability and resiliency here in Los Angeles. And so, I just want to highlight that. And then, I share Commissioner Lehr's real engagement with the photographs and the actual visual evidence of this department's commitment to restoration and to environmental issues, along with its commitment to continuing LADWP's sources of safe, reliable drinking water for its ratepayers. So I want to add my voice to supporting anything that we can do to demonstrate in a visual way, provide references to the extraordinary work over a very long period of time that has been done by this department, and again, to commend those of you who are associated with the water system. And then finally, I just want to note that when I say mythology, I also mean to acknowledge the extreme, sometimes difficult and often contentious process that has surrounded these issues as we have engaged them, both past and even in the recent present. But to say that every step of the way, and today, we have taken up the challenge, have not sacrificed the city's interest, which is something that we maintain we cannot and will not do, but nevertheless have stepped up and embraced the strongest tenets of conservation and environmental stewardship. And so with that, Marty, I'm very pleased that we will be releasing the environmental documents this week, and look forward to the next phase, and want to commend you personally on your work in this area. So thank you. And I see in the back the leadership of our water systems, and just want to say that you have a lot to be proud of, and your service to this city is really quite commendable. So thank you. I think with that we are complete, and we'll move to, should we do a break now maybe, or do we want to complete item 8D and then maybe take a short break? How are people doing out there? Why don't we do, it's noon time, so why don't we look at coming back in 10 minutes, and then we'll go to 8D and complete the rest of our agenda. So thank you. Are we good?
Yes.
All right. Then we are back in session. Do we need to take another quorum call?
Yes.
Okay. Susie, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Berard,
Present.
Lair, Commissioner Lair,
You said yes.
yes. Commissioner McLean Hill.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. McLean Hill,
Present. Thank you.
Reyes,
Present.
Neiman Brady, Present.
Commissioner Neiman Brady, you to take your mic off.
There you go.
Okay, there's something wrong with Commissioner Neiman Brady's sound. We're not hearing her even when her mic is on or when her mic is off mute.
Commissioner Neiman Brady present.
I am present, but you cannot hear me.
We can hear you now. Thank you.
5 present. We have a quorum.
All right, we'll move to 8D on the agenda.
Okay, so we have a presentation on our real estate services. We'd had some discussions about our holdings and real estate, so I asked Adriana Rubalcava to give us an overview of what her new group does. She's been, how many months now? 5 months, 5.5 months and counting, in charge of our real estate group and making some solid progress on revamping the organization and doing some restructuring. But she's going to review what they do today in total, as well as talk about our real estate assets and where we're heading in the future in terms of maximizing the value of those.
Okay, thank you for that. I will say that I did have an opportunity to review the presentation, so unless there's something that is being offered that's not here, it seems to outline what the division does, but is notably pretty thin in terms of the division's actual assets, which is what I was interested in better understanding. So we may need a follow-up to this, but this is certainly a good overview. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Let me take a moment to introduce 2 people that I brought from our real estate office. Guy Lammers in the back with a Dodger mask on. He's one of our property managers. And a new employee to the Department of Water and Power, Sumita Thapa, who is also our property manager. Guy is responsible for the power system and works with our colleagues there. And Sumita has taken on the water system. So thank you all. Yes, my name is Adriana Rubalcava. I was recently appointed the Director of Real Estate, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to provide you an overview of real estate. We provide support to water, power, and the joint systems. In addition to our internal customers, we have external customers, the residents of Los Angeles, the City of LA, corporations, small businesses, and government agencies at the federal, state, and county and city levels. Real estate is involved in a number of functions which ultimately can result in fee and easements. We are responsible for ensuring the department has the appropriate real estate rights for our initiatives. We work with the systems to improve and address the ongoing demand for water and power, which includes maintenance, repair work, and infrastructure. This is a partial list of the activities we are involved on a day-to-day basis. Our office deals with a wide range of different requests from throughout the department. We hold our real estate in a wide range of manners. Fee ownership, partnerships.
Sorry, really quickly, going back to the previous slide, is there a reason for the different colors? Do they signify anything, or is it just for readability?
Aesthetics.
Okay.
It was more aesthetics.
All right, thank you.
And as you can see, blue's my favorite color today because we have a Dodger game.
I can't be mad at the Dodger references. I will just say that. My husband and son have been anxiously awaiting this next game. They're still getting over Game 3, but they're ready.
They're not alone.
Whichever game we lost on errors, but they're ready. Go ahead.
They're not alone. We purchase land and fee You actually had an item on the consent agenda today when we purchased land in the Fernley, Nevada for the power system. We work with various cities to provide easements. An example of that is we are working with the city of Santa Clarita to give them an easement for a road, and they're going to give us full access to our towers. The other items we've done is we've worked and given permission to many of our residents in the city of LA. Our residents are our neighbors next to our tanks, our towers, and they've come to us when they've needed to put up a wall or use a portion of our transmission line to complete their driveway. We're always here to help the residents of Los Angeles too in real estate. The next set of slides will explain some of the core functions to support the various real estate needs: acquisitions, leases, and property management. As I mentioned, we purchased land for both power, water, and joint. When the power system worked on the solar project at Barron Ridge, we purchased 448 parcels to make that a successful project for the power system. We also purchased land in Sun Valley to house the facilities maintenance offices, which include landscaping, custodial, and their equipment. When the water system wanted a new trunk line between Riverside, Griffith Park, and the city of Burbank, we purchased 90 underground easements that included the city of Burbank property and individual homeowners in Burbank. In terms of leases in our portfolio, we have retail, office space, parking lots, and industrial space. Retail, for example, is our customer service centers. In the last couple of months, I brought 2 leases to the board, one for Watts and one for North Hills. And I must say, on a personal note, I spent 10 years working in the customer service division, so it always puts a smile on my face when I can do something for the customers and the employees in the service centers. Parking lots are also adjacent to our service centers. We lease parking spaces for our employees in Hollywood, and currently the power system is upgrading the Van Nuys parking lot with EV chargers, and we've obtained a lease for our employee parking. We also rent office space. Real estate is currently located at Fake Plaza, where we lease 4 to 5 floors there. Property management, along with the ownership of properties, comes maintenance. We receive all the complaints concerning abatement-related issues: weeds, homelessness, and illegal dumping. We now have a log and maintain a record of all of our abatement requests. Another form of property management is the non-permitted uses on property, which many of you refer to as encroachments. Here we work as a team with our right-of-way, city attorney, tenants, and adjacent property owners to resolve any encroachments that we may have on our property. As a form of property management, the department does have a secondary land use program. Within this program, the department offers properties for a variety of uses: nurseries, vehicle parking, and telecommunication towers, to name a few. We currently have approximately 500 licenses, resulting in an annual revenue of $7.6 million in 2019. I must come to the board and say that the majority of our licenses are expired. They are currently in holdover. But I view this as an opportunity for real estate to regroup and evaluate the process, to ensure that we meet the city charter, conduct a cost analysis to determine how to move forward with the holdover, standardize our licenses and requirements, and open the process for possible new use. We're in 2021, and the needs of the city have changed, and the needs for the community have changed. There could be an opportunity for EV charging or something that we had never thought of before, and this is our opportunity to have an open mind. We provide a number of services for the internal customers. Our in-house title group provides support for all of our real estate transactions. Our title staff tells us the story of the land, regardless if we're purchasing, selling, or working with a tenant on the license. If there's an easement, restriction, covenant, and how the land may be used. An example of this is when we worked with the power system on Beacon Solar. It was our title staff that informed us a third party had mineral rights to the land, therefore they were able to extract oil. We had to come back, interact with the power system, and decide, do we buy the land, and in addition to that, the mineral rights? And we did, and we had a successful program there. Mapping, similar to title, is a service that we provide. They post and record internally all of our department transactions. So for example, if staff here at the department wanted to develop a project on our land, they would call us and request information. Does the land have an easement, restrictions, a license, to see if the project is feasible? And real estate would then be able to assist them and at times be able to remove some of the restrictions. We also provide appraisal services. When we purchase or sell property, we appraise. We support litigation, we condemn property, we appraise. And for asset valuation, for our secondary land use, we also appraise to set a rate. Though I did acknowledge earlier that we haven't been doing that in the recent years. At this time, I've given you an overview of what we do in real estate and provided that information. I also want to talk about the role real estate has that people don't think about. We at Real Estate support the department in developing solutions for the city of Los Angeles. Staff take a great deal of pride on these projects, and we support the department and the city with some of their current issues. And two of the current issues that we've been assisting and work on is affordable housing and homelessness. In 2017, Assembly Bill 68 allowed for accessory dwelling units, which many of you refer to as granny flats. At least I refer to them as that. Our workload increased by a large number, you can only imagine, and continues to increase by 1,000 new applications every year. Our turnaround period in 2017 was 3 months internally to real estate. With the assistance of the power system, realigning our assets, increasing staff, and reducing the time frame for submittal and review process, we've gone from 3 months to 2 months, allowing there to be more inventory in the city of Los Angeles. The real estate office also supported the homelessness and the department on 3 occasions. We were able to identify property in Van Nuys to provide a homeless shelter of 100 beds on a daily basis. We identified property in North Hollywood to build the city was able to build a drop-in center that allows the homeless to take a shower, have laundry services, and store their personal belongings. And we are currently, the department will have an opportunity to participate in the mayor's safe overnight parking program. We were able to identify a property that will allow our residents a safe and secure overnight parking for our residents who have a car and not a home. In the short time that I've been there, I've set a few goals. 1, to continue supporting water, power, and joint in their initiatives, reinstitute the asset inventory and valuation program for the secondary land use, streamline our processes, digitize our maps and records, realign staff, improve training and development, and improve service responsiveness. And at this time, this is the conclusion of my overview of real estate.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Again, I'll start with commissioners who are participating remotely. I see all the mics are still on mute. Commissioner Berard, your mic is not. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Some time ago at a commission meeting, I asked to see a list of those properties that we own that are not in use that could be used for homeless. And I haven't seen that yet, but I wonder if that is available, and that at the next meeting that I could see that list. I think that would be, at this moment, that would be very helpful to our city council members who are looking for places to have bridge housing for the homeless. Thank you.
She has made that request more than once, so we would certainly like a list of, well, she would like a response, and the commissioners definitely owed a response to that question. It's been outstanding for many months.
I apologize. I probably, when Masood retired and Adriana came on board, we might have lost track of that. I thought we had responded to that, but we will respond to that. And there are a couple different facets to that. One is properties for potential homeless housing, or the HHH housing, or the bridge housing, and then also there's the parking lot issue that's going on right now that Adriana talked about, and then we are getting a lot of calls with Judge Carter and the issues of not having people live by freeways and under underpasses where there's a higher level of pollution. There's a lot of need for space, and so a number of the council members, particularly those who have areas of the city that are very built up and very congested, are contacting us looking for areas. The difficulty becomes looking at what we have plans for some property that appear to not be used, but they have plans coming on. Adriana has already leveraged one lot where we have plans, but we don't have plans anytime soon. So, we'll provide that. And
a couple of things. And I'm just going to jump in because this has been of high interest for me for some time. I appreciate, again, as I said, the sort of overview of the real estate division, or however we refer to it. However, this is an oversight board, and we have an absolute both right and obligation to understand that which we are overseeing. So when I ask for a report on real estate, I know that we own property. I want to know how many properties we own. I know, and I assume that they can be categorized in some particular way. So, we have property that, is used for current projects or facilities. We have property that is used for administrative purposes. We have property that's right-of-way kinds. We have property that falls in certain categories and segments. And frankly, had you provided that information, that would be information that Commissioner Berard could use to better understand what property that we might have available as sort of excess holdings that could be put in some other utilization. Easements. I assume we know how many active easements we're managing. I'm looking at leases and licenses. Again, how many are we managing? And for what purposes? I mean, I just, this, just how many properties this gives me no sense of scope, scale, or magnitude of the work that's actually being performed in your office. So I don't need just the categories. I need to understand what is happening in each category. I see that you have, sort of your goals, which is fine and great, but reinstitute asset inventory and valuation program. What does that exactly mean? Do we not have a current inventory of our assets? And if we don't, or if it's incomplete, that's fine. But I need to understand, what do we have today? What are the gaps, so that I can assess what it is that you are reinstituting, and help to determine whether or not we believe that your time frame for doing that is adequate. The department's management of its assets is not an insubstantial part of its business. And so when the commission asks for a report, we're not looking for some, kind of general outline of the work that's done in an area, or frankly, for a presentation of select kind of highlights or even goals disconnected from the current state of affairs. So when you say records and mapping digitation, I mean, I know what that is, but what do we have right now? Why are we doing that, and what are we seeking to achieve?
And Cynthia, if I may add, also where we're deficient, I couldn't agree with you more on your commentary on this section. I couldn't recall how it came that this got on the agenda, so I'm glad for you reminding us, but I felt very frustrated over the past 20 minutes listening to this one because it felt like it lacked any context. And perhaps, we need to give further direction and clarity on what we want in presentations going forward, but I also think the department should have a little more responsibility to provide that context for us and that extra data and stats to help us inform what decisions go forward and what we are seeing in front of us.
Well, thank you very much for your comment, and let me apologize if the presentation did not fulfill the expectations. I can begin by apologizing and starting again. So I appreciate the input and the feedback, and thank you very much from all of the commissioners and everyone.
No, and it's no problem. I mean, frankly, you have not been at our board meetings as we've discussed this, and I, certainly appreciate, the fact of the matter is this is part of, the report coming to the board through the general manager, and so I assume that Marty will take some responsibility for the content of this report, and we'll go back and make sure that as we move forward, and when I say we move forward, I would say at our November board meeting, I would certainly like to see some written update to the board, and in the next 60 days, I would expect a far more comprehensive presentation to this board. Again, oversight requires context and actual data. We may be doing an excellent job of property management. We may be doing an excellent job as it relates to all of our real estate assets, but right now, based on this, we have no idea. So
correct.
And I will, just so the board's clear, so, I thrust Adriana in this spot, so she's in the middle of trying to pick up the pieces from a number of past real estate managers. We don't have maps digitized now. And the first thing when she got to the office, she said, I need electronic records. She said, everything is on paper and it's not manageable. Real estate files are scattered because there's not a central repository because a lot of things reside within the systems. I completely agree to be able to categorize properties and catalog, but we also will probably do it in a couple different formats because, say, water system or power system will identify a property as a facility. There may be a number of properties that make up that facility. Under one of our reservoirs, there's probably 100 different parcels. So there's several different ways to look at this and to dice it. We do need to understand those better, and we don't have the information laid out that way. Adriana is working diligently on trying to update our leases. We believe that we should probably double or more the amount of money we're making on leases. And so this is an effort.
I understand all that. My only point is that you can't have information in these areas and that we don't have. This board has a right to understand the current status of our leases, and if our leases are underperforming as it relates to market value, that's something that we need to know. And we need to know in response to the questions that we have in this area. And again, I'm not coming at this with any preconceived notion about how things are. I'm simply saying that however they are, whatever it is, we need to understand that not in anecdotal terms, but in absolute terms, so we can make an independent decision as to where we should be prioritizing resources. What we should expect to be occurring and by when. And when you say that for a number of years there's been a problem, then I would simply say that perhaps for a number of years the Commission should have been engaged in more oversight of this particular area. So as a means of both understanding and participating in and setting goals around how we manage our assets and how we understand our current asset and asset management strategy, we have to begin with a clear report around what we know, what we don't know, what we have, where our gaps are, and what processes or how we intend to move forward to close the gap between what we are currently doing that we find inadequate and getting to a place where we are doing a better job of managing those assets. So that's, I think, really as a board where we have to operate. Is there any more from the board on this subject? I see nothing from the commissioners present. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lear.
Yes, I just noticed, I think in one of the slides, customer service centers. So DWP does it have customer service centers? And this has to do with the earlier conversation about the CARES Act, CARES program, and the other program for relief for people who really need help with their bills, and where do they go if they don't have technology at their fingertips? And so I'm just curious, customer service centers.
This is Dudley. Maybe I can just jump in quickly. We have 14 customer service centers that are scattered around the city. We closed them in March for most customer transactions. Some that can be done by appointment. There was no way for us to ensure it wasn't so much inside the customer service centers managing people, but some of them would have long lines and hard to manage the number of people in there. We're not currently, we don't have plans to reopen them. We don't have a specific date to reopen them. So at this point, I don't think they'll help us with the CARES Act grant, but people can use the 800 number, so they can do a lot, get information by phone, but the applications will have to come in online.
Okay. All right, thank you. Just wanted to understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reyes, did you have anything?
No comment. Everything has been said. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think we're...
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. We're done with D, and we will... moving to our filed items, 9A. Is there anything other than for 9A, B, C, D, and E? I know these are all reports that have been filed. Is there any comment or question with respect to any of the filed items?
Yes. I would like to request a report around a presentation around, for a later date around the energy storage items. I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead because I'm going to ask for the energy storage one later. The electric vehicle charging station.
You'd like to see a board presentation on that, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay,
and in
got it.
specific, just to give some guidance on what exactly I would like on that. I want to make sure that the presentation includes both public access charging stations and private access, both utility-owned and third-party owned, what our current penetration is relative to other service areas in the country, and also our current plans. And I know they're evolving, but I'd like to know what they currently are and where we see it heading.
Okay, great. Anything else with respect to the filed items, or are they simply submitted for commission review? Hearing nothing, we'll move now to item number 24. And that item was requested pulled by Commissioner.
Do I keep mask on or off? Take it off.
Yeah, so I think for this presentation, we have Marcelo DiPaolo. He's the manager of in our major projects, and I'm ready to address this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Marcelo DiPaolo again. I'm here to answer any questions on this one, but what we have here on this STATCOM project is this is a $35 million contract that basically we are trying to add a STATCOM device at our Barron Ridge Energy Hub. At Barron Ridge, what we have is a various of interconnections of various solar, wind, and renewable energy that all come into that one hub. And what happens is we had our system planning people conduct studies, and a determination was made to help with the voltage support and the voltage fluctuations that we have in the area, that a STATCOM device would be ideal for that area to help control the grid and help control the voltage as these renewables come in. At the moment, we have close to about 800 megawatts of renewables in, and by the time that ELIN 1 and 2 are interconnected at that location, we'll be closer to 1.2 gigawatts of renewable power at that one location, further making the necessity for the voltage bar control needed there at that site, at that location.
So is it fair to conclude that perhaps not 100% directly, but that a large portion of the costs associated with this really can be attributed to the ELIN project? And we should think, at least mentally, that these are additional costs of those projects,
It would be ELIN in conjunction with Beacon, in conjunction with the Springbok, the RE-Cinco, all those locations where you have inverters. It's the inverters that require this device to be added there to help control the voltage.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's helpful. That is exactly what I was looking for. I no longer need any more discussion on this, but happy to listen to what else if others are interested.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any additional questions? Terrific. Thank you for helping to put all of this in the context of our larger our larger goals around clean energy. With that, do we have a motion to approve item 24?
So moved.
I will second. Susie, can you call the roll?
Berard,
second.
Lair, Commissioner Lair?
I'm trying to, okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Neiman Brady?
Yes.
Reyes?
Yes.
McLean Hill?
Yes.
5 ayes.
Thank you. And we'll now move to item 25, where both Commissioner Reyes and Commissioner Neiman Brady had questions and requested perhaps a brief presentation. So if we could move to 25.
So for this presentation, we have James Barner, who is one of the managers under the Clean Grid LA division and has been managing and running our integrated resource plan process for a number of years.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm James Barner, Assistant Director of Clean Grid LA Strategy. So this is a AB 2514 was put into place in 2012, and we were required to establish procurement targets for the CEC of energy storage to try to encourage greater amounts of adoption of energy storage. And there were two targets that they required compliance being met by 2016, and also at the end of 2020. So we're at the last phase. We've been to the board twice before, in 2014 and 2017, to establish targets and show our achievements to meet those targets. So this is our last compliance requirement. So this report is the second report that we've completed. We have to, one of the requirements was established at every 3 years, a requirement to report to the CEC with our targets and our achievements. The first compliance report was due in 2017. The next one is due at the end of 2021 per AB 2514, but AB 2020-27 actually accelerated that to make it more consistent with what the IOUs were reporting to the CEC. So they accelerated that 1 year to the end of this year. So we're required to submit it this year. In 2016, we achieved 22.6 megawatts of energy storage. In 2017, we reported our modifications to our energy storage procurement targets, and then in this March in 2020, we actually procured 309 megawatts of energy storage. So there's different types of energy storage technologies. We've been evaluating all of these throughout the years, probably the last 10 years. The ones that we're really focused on are the lithium-ion batteries under the chemical side on the left, and the flow batteries. We have a project going on at the JFB here where we're comparing the vanadium flow batteries to the lithium-ion battery, and we're engaged with EPRI on that to produce a study on that and come out with some findings of cost effectiveness and operation capabilities and so forth. Thermal chillers, ice. So at LAX we have a 1.5 megawatt chiller there that basically stores cold liquid that's used in the air conditioning system there. Then we're also looking at pump storage and also compressed air energy storage as well, and also liquid air energy storage. So these are other more longer duration types of energy storage that we're looking at. So we're looking at both short duration, from anything from a half an hour to 4 hours, and then from 6 hours and beyond, longer duration. We have separate groups looking at these efforts. So there's many different use cases for energy storage on the generation side, distribution, transmission, and behind the meter. Wide variety on the generation side. We're mainly looking at addressing the variability of renewable resources, trying to reduce our overgeneration, provide some peak capacity in the late afternoon so that we can try to offset some of our generators that are producing fossil fuel generators, and providing that resource adequacy that we need on our system and reliability. And on the transmission side, mainly looking at transmission congestion issues, so being able to store energy at times when we have a lot of renewables coming in through one path, and we can then later bring it in at night is one aspect of that. And looking at grid resilient ancillary services, so non-spin and frequency regulation and so forth. Behind the meter is typically, these are for backup power for our customers. And they also perform especially for commercial customers, peak shaving, so reducing their demand charges. And then on the distribution side, we're looking at batteries that are located in distribution stations. So we're still working on those plans, and also to support microgrids like the Green Meadows project, and also the LA Zoo. We have a project going on. Here are our targets for 2020. We had 128.4 megawatts identified for generation transmission level storage, 25 megawatts of distribution, and 2 megawatts of customer. We achieved 301. We went far beyond the 100 megawatts, that 128 megawatts that we were looking
Can you
at.
just clarify something? Sorry.
Sure.
The 2020 targets are targets that were the CEC targets. These are not LA's self-imposed targets or goals, rather. Is that correct?
Yeah, and no, they were actually self-imposed. So the legislation did not require a specific amount of energy storage. We voluntarily, some POUs just flat out said we don't see any cost-effective energy storage and put 0. So we actually looking at trying to be in line with many of the other large utilities in California. We made a fairly sizable commitment of 178 megawatts, which was very consistent with what SDG&E was doing at the time. That was about the same level that we were at. So we've achieved the 301 on the customer side. We're at 7.8 megawatts, but we've actually gone beyond that. We have about 10 megawatts in place now since this report was done, and we have another 5 megawatts on the customer side. So a lot of distributed storage out there. A few of the projects here, Eland Storage, I think you know quite a bit about, but that's we have Glendale involved in that project. It's a very large battery, 300 megawatt battery overall, 4-hour. We have a portion of that, which is the 281 megawatts of that project. That was awarded last year. The Beacon battery energy storage we've had in service since 2018. That's been supplying frequency regulation and supporting the Beacon, the Barron Ridge transmission corridor. So supporting those renewable projects up there, similar to what the stacked VAR compensator that you just saw on item 24 is also helping in that same pathway to help support those renewables in that area. And then we have the JFB, I mentioned, the comparison between lithium-ion and flow batteries, and then the Fire Station 28. So that was a I would call a microgrid, which basically once the power went out, and we actually experienced the power that went out very soon after, just I think within a month or two after it was put into place, and the power went out, and the fire station was able to stay online with their critical services for about 7 hours. So energy storage distributed throughout our system. You can see here the green dots are the backup systems. They just provide backup system. They don't have any solar attached to it. The yellow is dots are actually solar combined with storage sites. And so we're monitoring this very closely and keeping track of these installations as they go, so we can start to develop our plans as we get higher and higher levels of penetration. And then you have the peak shaving, which are the red dots. So those are commercial sites where they're trying to reduce their demand charges by shaving off their peak demand. And so we have much greater goals. This is just a starting point. With the Green New Deal, or the LA Sustainability Plan, we set up targets that we worked with the mayor's office of very aggressive targets of up to 3,000 megawatts by 2035 and 4,000 megawatts by 2050. So we did some preliminary analysis to see if that made sense for our system, based on trying to minimize over generation levels and really get to these high levels of renewables that we have identified, 80% by 2036 and 100% by 2045. And other aspects of the Green New Deal are electrifying all buses within the city by 2030, and then getting to a net zero, 100% net zero by 2050, which is basically electrifying everything you see. So our upcoming plans are to, we're continuing to study and evaluate these technologies constantly. We have two groups dedicated to this. One of them is looking very closely at hydrogen storage at IPP, looking at proposals there. And we're also looking at pumped hydro as well, projects throughout the western United States, and trying to determine how those can integrate within our system. And of course, batteries and so forth. There's lots of innovations going on, so it's pretty exciting, especially in the battery world. And we participate a lot in, the industry itself, going to conferences and speaking and so forth, and RFIs and RFPs that we put out at SCAPA. And we're constantly learning as we go, and I think that's about all I have to present.
Thank you.
Any
Questions?
I have a question, and that is, this bill is AB 2514.
Yes. This is the report that's required to be filed with the CEC for that legislation.
Her question was, do you know the author of that bill?
Oh, the author of that bill. I don't recall.
Skinner.
Skinner. Oh, thank you.
So Nancy Skinner. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, are you okay?
Yes, go ahead.
So you've actually triggered a lot more questions for me than I originally had, which I think just further augments my request to have a dedicated presentation on energy storage. I know this is an evolving process, but on one of your earlier slides, you mentioned a target, I think, of 1,700 or so by 2025. And if I'm doing this correctly, that's a 5-time fold increase relative. Yeah, there it was. It was too forward. A 5-fold increase from where we are today, and over the next 5 years. So that's pretty aggressive to me. Not bad, aggressive, just that's a lot to accomplish. And so I'd like some more dialogue and understanding of, what you're planning on for that time period. And certainly the pumped hydro is fantastic, but that's going to be far beyond 2025 as well, likely with the hydrogen. So what are your plans to accomplish that interim over the interim 5 years? How much do you plan to be distributed versus large scale? What are you thinking about utility owned and versus contracted? And what kind of customer incentives might you have for residents and customers putting units for the grid benefit on their properties? How much do you estimate some of these will defer other upgrades? So obviously there's a lot here. I don't think we should address it now, but I think we need a general presentation on all of those, since energy storage is a critical path, I think, to our future.
Yes, we'll definitely get back to you with a presentation. It's a very important topic to achieve our renewable goals. I do want to point out that those targets, and I failed to mention that they do include the Castaic facility, so we have 1,250 megawatts there. So we're not as far behind as it appears, but I think our goals, since the OTC repowering announcement, we've actually had to reevaluate those numbers. So those numbers are probably on the lower side, especially in the near term. So we'll be presenting more of that to you at the next board meeting. Some background on that.
And I recognize that I've also asked for a lot and that a lot of this is not yet definitively determined. So if it makes sense not to present at the next board meeting, and that's okay as long as you give an update of when you will present on it, as well as know that it doesn't have to be the set in stone final, just whatever the current trajectory and path is, I think would help inform the greater context for the whole board.
Yes, yeah, definitely understood. We'll schedule that presentation either after or at the same day as the Clean Grid LA plan.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, frankly, all of this will, I think part of what's occurring is, or what's, you know, what we will need an update on is the kind of the entire context for how we're moving forward the Clean Grid.
Absolutely.
The Clean Grid LA process. And so we'll work with the Power System, and Commissioner Neiman Brady will certainly solicit your input on what that looks like, what that presentation is comprised of, and we can expect it to be calendared in the not too distant future. But there is an entire contextualization with so many different moving pieces that it's hard to capture in the context of contracts that are moving forward.
You make a very good point, and it probably, given the vast amount of activity along multiple channels, because I didn't really talk about renewables and a couple other areas that you're making huge progress with Clean Grid LA. There probably is an initial level setting around Clean Grid LA, and then further presentations on subtopics like energy storage, electric vehicles. I was very specific about electric vehicle charging stations as distinct from electric vehicles, but then now we can start to see that there's so many gradations here, and I think your point, Cynthia, is correct that we need an overall understanding to start us off. So thank you, and I appreciate everyone's patience as I press through these questions.
No, very, appreciate the dialogue around this item. Commissioner Reyes, did you have anything else?
I just want to thank you and thank the entire team and LADWP for meeting and going above the requirements. It's not, this is voluntary for us to ensure that we have energy storage. I think that's the key to transitioning to clean energy, to a clean energy future. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
I just have two items or two concerns of mine is that I would like to know, and you said that you will perform due diligence, stay up to date with the innovations. Has there been a study, or is there a plan to do an interconnection study, further study, because of how those, at the facilities that are being considered for energy storage for 2021 further up? That's one. And the other one is that we also, I would also like to see if you are considering automating the local permitting process for behind the meter energy storage systems, because I think that is important for our customers. And what is your plan, and when will that happen? Because behind the meter is actually a good service for our customers who are willing to participate in energy storage programs.
Yes, absolutely. So as far as the planning aspect, we have done several transmission planning studies to try to determine how much energy storage needs to be in basin to provide reliability and resiliency for our system, as well as outside our basin. And then we've also done more detailed studies with EPRI to look at, where on our distribution system it might be best to locate energy storage. We've also, a big part of the LA 100 study is to try to forecast what our needs will be for distributed energy resources in general. I would say that's one of the biggest areas of that study and modeling efforts going on. So there's that as well, and it incorporates transmission and interconnection aspects too, to make sure that we're optimizing our transmission and distribution system in a way that can, function the best and support these DERs. As far as the interconnection behind the meter, I think it's we have that in place. I think it's going pretty well with the customer side for their systems, but we're looking at a little bit more complex configurations, especially with solar. So with feed-in tariff, we'll be coming to the board here soon with another presentation for a feed-in tariff plus program, we're calling it, which includes storage, and it has various configurations behind the meter that we've been working with our internal staff to design the interconnection in a way that works for that program and maximizes the benefits of the incentives that are in place, like the SGIP program, Small Generator Interconnection Program, I think it's called. Incentive program, I think so. Yeah, with Southern California Gas. So yeah, we spend quite a bit of time working on those interconnection requirements and trying to make it as less of a headache as possible for our customers to be able to connect those systems.
So thank you. When you come back to the board with your report, can you also include the guidelines that you use to inform you on how these determinations were made for the energy storage? I would be very curious as to how that decisions were made.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Those are all of the questions and comments. Are we prepared to move forward? And if so, do we have a motion to approve item 25?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Susie, would you please call the roll?
Berard,
Aye.
Lair,
Aye.
McLean Hill,
Aye.
Neiman Brady,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
5 ayes.
Terrific. Thank you. That item has been approved. And could we please move to item 27?
Okay, that's me too.
Okay, well, that keeps
I
it
got back to
efficient.
back.
I also want to be mindful of time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Neiman Brady has requested reports on this plus 2 additional items, and I know that she will be leaving the board meeting at 1:30, so we have 20 minutes. If we could
Sure.
focus and move through, that would be terrific.
Would you like to just answer questions or go through the presentation?
I think it's fine to move through the presentation just with
great.
speed.
All right, so this is a sales agreement at SCAPA. It's meant to meet the requirements of Senate Bill 859. There's 2 parts, the sale agreement and the fiscal agency agreement. So, it's designed to meet least cost best fit. So we still go through our RFP process to identify, these projects, and this was picked as the lowest cost best fit project. And this is, strictly to meet the California mandate. It's not to meet our renewable goals necessarily. It's just to meet the requirements 859. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So 859, it was a bill that was signed by Governor Brown in 2016. It was designed to decrease wildfire risk and reduce greenhouse gas emissions caused by wildfires. They established a requirement for both investor-owned utilities and publicly owned utilities to required to procure contracts with a 5-year term for biomass. So basically, what that entails is it's dead and dying trees within these zones, these Tier 1 and Tier 2 zones that you can see in pink and in red there on the state map. And use 60% of the biomass has to be from that category. And that's to basically incentivize them to remove these trees and produce electricity with it. The overall mandate was 125 megawatts. The POUs had 29 megawatts. LADWP's portion of that was 14.3 megawatts. We've already satisfied part of that with a Loyalton PPA that we did a few years back. That's 8.9 megawatts. So this is the last remaining portion of our 14.3 megawatts, is just this Roseburg sales agreement. The price is $46 per megawatt hour. Our share, of course, 5.42. We talked about the term. The annual expenditure is $1.32 million, and over the term of the contract, over 5 years, will be $6.61 million. And you can see this took quite a while to negotiate, because not only just the normal time of negotiating with the company, the developer, Roseburg, but also working together with SCAPA members as well as other large POUs in the state, so Sacramento, Turlock, and Modesto Irrigation District. So we worked with all these partners together, and everybody had different ideas of how, what was acceptable or what's not. So it took a while to get this project. And the fiscal agreement, just basically, LADWP isn't responsible for the billing and accounting for this project, for the group. And then questions, if you have any.
Commissioner Newman-Brady, did you have questions?
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this one. I'm obviously scratching my head because it makes me scratch my head. But I don't understand the internal process that this went through. And is that consistent with every renewable? It just seems like a very lengthy and multiple agencies that had to review and sign off. And I'm not familiar with the ED4 package.
Yeah, it follows our standard PPA process for renewables. So it's a standing RFP. People can bid in at any time. So there were several projects to choose from. I don't recall the exact number, but this was seen as the most attractive project. Were there any other specific points? Other POUs wanted to get involved in it because it's a lot of effort to put these together. So we do sometimes joint projects outside of SCAPA with other utilities, and there was interest there. It only affected POUs that had over a certain size. So I think this covered most of them.
Yeah, no, I'm more talking about the LA specific activities that transpired. So there is some between January and to date, and that is the expected typical. I mean, I know there's delays related to COVID, but it's quite protracted process, and I'm not familiar with what the ED4 package is and why it had to go through all these different approval steps. And perhaps I was just unaware that every project goes through all these agencies before it comes to the board, but that seems backwards, frankly.
Yeah, the ED4 package is required for any of these larger projects, renewable projects, and it has to go through the CAO office. So they do their own internal report, which you should have in your package. And then once they complete that report, it goes to the mayor's office, they approve it, and then it comes back to, I think it goes to the ECC and EJ committee. They approve it, and then it has to go to the full council, and then it comes back to the board office, and then eventually Mr. Adams here signs it. So it's quite a process. We have to go through this with all of these projects.
But then you go back to the council, no, the committee, then you go back to the council, and then it goes back to Marty?
To actually execute it.
Just to sign off.
To actually sign off, and then it goes back to SCAPA. So there's so the package took, the ED4 package, internal review was 3 months from January to April. The CAO office about 2.5 months beyond that. the mayor's office, in the middle of all this was happening during COVID, so things really slowed down. That took 2.5 months, and then it came back for board approval action here within a month. So,
are there any additional questions beyond the?
Yeah, no, I think we need to take this offline because, Clean Power Alliance can sign and get in a contract executed in 2 weeks, and just getting one signed takes over a year. I think we need to have a sidebar on this one. So if you could follow up with me and let's have a discussion about this. Thank you.
Okay, great. So do we have a motion for approving item 27?
Move to approve.
I'll second that. Would you please call the roll?
Berard,
Aye.
Lair,
Aye.
McLean Hill,
Aye.
Neiman Brady,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
5 ayes.
thank you.
Terrific. That item 27 is approved. Item 28.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Paul Liu from the Water Resources Division. I figure for time's sake, if the Commissioner would like, we can maybe jump right into questions that the Commissioners may have on this project or this agreement.
Commissioner Newman Brady, you asked the item to be pulled. Would you like a presentation, or did you have questions only?
At this time, I could just jump to questions. Thank you.
Okay, terrific.
And since I previewed some of the questions, I've got a lot of them answered, but I just wanted to ask one clarifying question. It says that the initial phase is 3,500 acre feet in 2021, and then so the question is then beyond 2021, what would be the scope and scale of the annual recharge?
Yeah, we hope that eventually to get up to 30,000 acre feet, but that'll take us a while. Through our conservation efforts, we have to see where the flows are, but that is the ultimate goal, to get to 30,000 acre feet of recharge in the Hansen Spreading Grounds.
Annual.
And Commissioner, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, if I may, so the beauty of this agreement is that for every drop of water that we spread in the spreading grounds that makes it into the groundwater, we get a 1-for-1 credit. So that same amount we can pump out 3 to 6 years later from our pumping stations.
Okay, so that helps. Thank you. I appreciate you following up on my questions. Sorry.
All right. This is a significant project, and continues with the overall effort on the part of the water system to ensure that we have as much of our water needs locally as possible. So I appreciate the slide that you have up. Are there any additional questions from board members? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Susie, would you call the roll?
Berard,
Aye.
Lair,
Aye.
McLean Hill,
Aye.
Neiman Brady,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
5 ayes.
Terrific. Thank you. Item number 28 is approved. Item 30, which is the CARES Act program. Would you please move? Is this Anne? You're available to make the presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam President. I did the presentation on 8B, and I'm available for any other additional questions.
Yes, thank you for that. Commissioner Neiman Brady.
Yeah, and one question particularly around the dynamics of the payouts. You had mentioned in your presentation, and thank you for all the context of the presentation because it helps really understand this one, that any lost checks will not be recreated. And so I'm just curious about the administration process. Really, frankly, LADC, it sounds like, will be incurring some expense as it relates to this, and just what the intention is around unclaimed checks or unclaimed balances, what the plan is there.
We do estimate our cost to be about $990,000, and that includes the labor, the IT costs, the check printing and mailing. Since we're administering the program with federal monies, we'll have to return any monies that were not spent. So that's why we're recommending customers cash the check right away, because it's not our money that we would be returning, it would be federal money.
Right. Perfect. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on this item?
No.
Okay, seeing none, thank you. Can we have an approval for item 30? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Would you please call the roll, Susie?
Berard,
Aye.
Lair,
Aye.
McLean Hill,
Aye.
Neiman Brady, Neiman Brady,
Aye.
Reyes,
Aye.
5 ayes.
Terrific. Motion or the item is passed. And now if we could go to item 31, which is a motion that was put forward at our last board meeting by Commissioner Reyes relative to data gathering and our equity metrics. Commissioner Berard, you had a question. Would you like for Commissioner Reyes to speak to her motion in advance of your question?
Well, I think that I'll just ask my question. They're an unpublished equity metrics paper that already exists. And is there anything that DWP is concerned about disclosing?
Marty, I think that the commissioner is making reference to the fact that the equity metrics has been around at the department for some time, and I know there was a great deal of work that was done in connection with the equity metrics by Commissioner Funderburk and the staff. I suspect that, and we've not had, frankly, in my tenure on the board, any distribution of the initial work that led to the policy. I don't think I've seen the actual policy document or white paper that was developed in connection with this. And so there's, I suspect, some interest in more background and more understanding of the origins, the initial policy work that was put forward, and making that available to the board as we reflect on and and take up sort of an additional refinement of the program.
We can do that, and if I could ask John, is there any reason, anything that prohibits us from sharing anything we have? We're all good, so we'll be happy to do that. We'll package the background together, because I'm not sure how extensive it is, but make sure that all the meaningful information is there for everybody to see. Because there were a number of metrics, and they got pared down to the ones that are in the program, and certainly those can be augmented, but there was a broader background behind this, absolutely.
That there's, I think that often when we see work of this kind and with turnover at the commission or policy level, it is, you can sometimes lose context and sometimes the intent or underlying interest or motivation can be lost. So as we move forward through this process and see a report back to the board in January, it would be useful if that report were accompanied by the sort of broader context that led us to this point in the first place.
Certainly.
Commissioner Berard, did you have additional questions?
Yes. One of the concerns I have is that when Bill Funderburk and I worked on this, and we worked on this for quite some time, I was adamant that I wanted gender equity to be put into this, as well as ethnic equity. And I understand that this is going to be targeted to certain demographic areas in LA, and I appreciate that. But I still think that we have never addressed the gender equity, that when we talked about the different groups that are working for DWP, it seems to me that a part of the pie that was part of that chart was very small when it had to do with women being hired for DWP, and particularly in managerial or supervisor positions. And I wonder what's being done with that. And I haven't heard anything about any outreach programs or anything that's specifically being done to bring women into DWP in managerial capacities or non-traditional jobs for women. And I wondered if we could, I wondered why that was not part of this, the background for item number 31.
Commissioner Reyes?
So I just want to go to the purpose for this particular motion, and I do acknowledge that there is a lot of room to expand and to grow and to really fully understand what data are we collecting in the context of how does that data, how do we understand the policies and the data that we're collecting, what are the impacts of those on the population and the areas that we are trying to evaluate. So that foundational knowledge and the data collection that we have hasn't really provided us the correct context of why are we doing this. And I am, I understand with Commissioner Barad's concern, and that is why the motion is instructing the general manager and chief engineer to establish a working group that will be tasked to revise, review, and expand the current metrics and align the equity values with the specific strategies for each of those categories. And the gender equity metric is one that is lacking. And the reason why I put forth this motion is because we have been talking about this. This report is done twice a year, but I haven't really seen a really robust type of reporting where I can understand that is really what we're planning to do and what those impacts are. So that working group that will be set up in consultation with the stakeholders internally and externally as well, so that then we can set up the specific goals. If we don't have goals, we're not going to know if we're meeting our metrics or those targets related to our baseline, short-term, mid-term targets. And this is, I think, an opportunity for us to really now think of revising and improving our metrics. The other thing is that, that opportunity is also there to become bolder and more innovative so that we know that we are meeting the needs of our customers in terms of equitable access to our programs, that we are able to set forth metrics that we can measure to mitigate impacts in the future, especially we're living, in this pandemic. There has never been, I think, better time, a more important time for us to review the equity metrics and guide that service delivery to the city's 1 point something customers, right? If I'm not mistaken, for our energy and water customers.
I would just say the following. I concur with Commissioner Reyes's observation that the equity metrics is not really provided the data necessary for us to evaluate whether or not we're achieving our goals and or our policies. As Commissioner Berard, to your point, as I look at the intent of the motion, it's really to look at the data that's being gathered, not to articulate in full what the policy's objectives are. That's a separate matter, and a matter that this commission may need to reassert, and reviewing the initial set of policies and objectives would be an important aspect of reasserting what our actual goals are. It is, I think, certainly it's my intention in moving, in voting affirmatively for the motion, that the work here be very focused, and it be focused around identifying the kind of data that would be important to provide to the commission in a such that it would allow us to actually evaluate, to determine what's occurring, to evaluate the goals that are being set, and both us and third parties to meaningfully assess the department's progress toward those goals. And I think that that is something that is fully achievable between now and January. And with respect to the broader lens of, what we are seeking to sort of re-articulating what we are seeking to achieve in these various areas, I will look forward to seeing that also, addressed by this commission, fully informed by the broad lens, Commissioner Berard, that you and Commissioner Funderburk brought to this project initially. I would also request that as we move forward, both Commissioner Reyes, the sponsor of this motion, and Commissioner Berard, to the extent that you would be willing, serve as an informal task force to work with the department in moving forward this, the intent of this motion and bringing back the report to the committee or to the board. So are there additional questions or comments before we move forward?
No, I think that that I've expressed my frustration that nothing really has happened with this. And yes, I would be willing to serve on a task force. Thank you for suggesting that.
No, thank you, and I certainly share your frustration with respect to gender representation throughout the department, and we would all be remiss were we not to, in a much more concentrated or concerted way, continue to advance that cause within the department. So with that, is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Terrific. I will second the motion. Would you please take the roll?
Berard?
No.
Lair?
Yes.
McLean Hill?
Aye.
Neiman Brady?
We've lost Commissioner Neiman Brady.
Reyes?
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. The motion passes. And with that, I think we will be moving into closed session. So, Mr. Tong.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, the board shall recess into closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding the matters identified on the agenda. The board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54957.1 of the California Government Code. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait until the mics are...
Please remain silent until the mics are off. Thank you. And commissioners, you received a second email with the WebEx information for closed